Welcome to another episode of Chasing Labels. I am your host, Stephen Billings. And with me, as always, your other host, Andrew Cabral. How you doing, man?
Doing good. We're back here once again for another episode, or spine number, as we should properly say. Is at spine number 102, or 102, or whatever you want to say it.
102, or what's the Roman numerals? No,
Don't ask me. Once I get past
what's the pig Latin on that?
I don't know. I could Google it, but I feel like it would take too much time to figure this out.
I don't know.
But we are, at 102, which is going to get a little still getting used to being over 100 episodes, not being in, the first 100, but we're making our way. But yeah, we're back here once again. This is the first week of June, actually, June of 2023. Not the first full week, but we're just dipping our toes into June. It's early June now, feeling that summer feeling, I hope. It went from 86 degrees to 46 degrees here, so I don't know what's going on in terms of weather. But it's not very pleasant on the body, I can tell you that. I woke up this morning with my head feeling like a boulder because of congestion, because of the weather change, or the rapidity of the weather change. Yeah, it's wild times.
Yeah, it was like fall down here today. It was a little rainy, but the weather stayed in like the 60s and 70s. So it was pretty nice down here.
Yeah, that's our high for the rest of the week, is in 60s and 70s, which is not quite summer. For
it's
me.
It's okay. I'm fine
Pick a
with
lane.
that. I'm fine with it. I don't like it. I don't like when it gets too hot.
I like when if it's gonna get hot, I hope it stays consistent. You know what I mean? At least be consistent. But the weather up here in New England changes as rapidly as anything. But we do have another interview this week with a really special guest, someone that I've known for many, many years, and it was really nice to actually get to talk to this person in length about what they do and what they're into and all that kind of stuff. And that is Raquel Stecher. And Raquel Stecher does a lot of writing for a lot of outlets when it comes to covering film festivals and stuff like that. We talked to her about her going to the Turner Classic Movie Festival in Los Angeles, her going to South by Southwest this year, and that kind of stuff. And then, of course, her love of classic Hollywood and all those things, which is where I got introduced to her, amongst many other TCM fans making their way through the internet. But yeah, it's really awesome interview, and hopefully you enjoy it. So this is Raquel Stecher.
Yes, please relax your ears and get ready for this interview with Raquel Stecher.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Chasing Labels, and we are going to be once again having a really interesting person here for these exclusive interviews that we've been doing all along.
Exclusive?
Yeah, exclusive.
I wouldn't say it's exclusive. I mean, other people have talked to these people.
When I just said those words, I knew it was wrong, and I just rolled with it, and then Steven caught me like a safety net.
I want to make sure people understand these people have been talked to before.
Yeah, exclusive to us, I guess.
Sure, it is. Like, it is us.
You can only hear these words on this podcast.
Yeah, nobody would mess it up this bad. Yeah, let's go ahead.
Damn right. You know what? I was improvising there for a second, and I'm just derailed now.
It's okay. Now go ahead.
But
finish up.
Yeah, but let me get into my intro mode. So today we have a very special guest, someone that I've been following on social media for many, many years, a social media acquaintance, if you will, someone who is geographically from my neck of the woods, which I find a lot more people around that are or have some type of connection here than I thought. This is a film historian, a critic, a film journalist, a film historian, like I just said twice. And this is Raquel Stecher. Welcome.
Hi. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to talk to you guys.
Yes, thank you. We both of me and Andrew are big fans of classic film and film noir specifically, and I know that's a big thing for you as well, because you do hang out in the TCM film festivals and realm and fan club, as we call it. So yeah, we'll be excited to maybe nerd out about some classic film with you.
Yes,
yeah, that sounds great.
Yeah, this would be a very kind of personal episode for me. Not much personal, just like getting to talk to someone who's deep into the roots of classic Hollywood, the TCM film fandom and all that kind of stuff. Someone who's been to the film festival that I've always wanted to go to, in the TCM Classic Film Festival every single year I see it come and I see it go, and I'm like, one day
You
I'll get
gotta
there.
go. You'll
Yeah,
love it.
I know I would. It would be like overwhelmingly impactful, I think.
You know,
Plus,
you've seen that movie, The Bucket List, with
uh,
Jack Nicholson? That's going to be
yes.
Andrew. He'll be older. He'll finally make. He'll be like, you know what? Screw it. I'm going to go and do all the things I want to do, and then he's going to like go to the
Go to
festival.
the
And
TCM Film Festival.
yeah,
I tell people that all the time because people ask me, where would you want to go? There's always like, where do you want to go in the world if you could go anywhere? And I choose the TCM Film Festival really just because the element there seems very much my vibe. Like everyone's there to enjoy and love movies. But we'll get into that. But first, we do want to get into a little bit of Raquel's background when it comes to her love of movies and just her life in general. So please, tell us everything about yourself in
everything.
concise time.
So, I am a full-time film critic and historian now. I have been writing about classic movies specifically since 2007. I started a blog called Out of the Past, named after the famous film noir Out of the Past from 1947.
That one's
And
pretty
that
good.
was a Yes, it's my favorite film noir and one of my top favorite movies. And I needed an outlet to share my love of classic movies, so I had that, and that kind of grew into the career I have now. And right now, I run a site called Kel Movies, where I write about newer movies. I write for Turner Classic Movies. I write research articles, scripts, things like that, and I also write for DVD Netflix. So I'm a lifer for anything movies. Like now it's just like completely consumes me. But it's interesting, like my journey to movies is kind of unique because I grew up without any sort of like cultural education. So I have two, like my parents are immigrants from other countries, and they didn't really have any interest in like American pop culture, art of any sort. So I didn't really have any guidance. Like I had guidance at school for books, which I was a big book fan, and I had a career in the book publishing industry for a long time. But I didn't really have any guidance when it came to like movies or television or music or anything. So I was kind of on my own, um, which is kind of unusual because people usually have their parents or their grandparents or an aunt and uncle kind of guide them. So I was on my own. So I basically picked everything I wanted to see, which is actually it kind of worked out for me. Anytime I went to the movie theater and I would ask my mom to take me, I would get to pick out the movie, which is kind of cool if you think about it. And I mean, the only time she ever picked a movie herself was she really wanted to see the J-Lo movie Selena. But otherwise, like everything else I picked, I even like I remember I really wanted to see this kind of obscure period film, Washington Square from 1997, and it was playing at Kendall Square Cinema, kind of like just across the river from Boston. And I had my learner's permit, and I drove my mother's red truck, and I took her out there just to go see that movie. I was like very dedicated to like if I had my heart set on watching something, I would go see it. But yeah, like my experience, I mean, the guidance would have been nice to guide me towards, an understanding of like film history and just having that nostalgia. I didn't really have that, but I did have a unique experience in exploring movies on my own. So I really kind of curated my own love of movies. And as a kid, like very much, I really liked movies that were about other kids or about animals or anything that interests me at the time. And I realized really early on that if I had an interest at the time and there was a movie that was connected to that interest, like it kind of empowered me to go explore another world. So it's really it was life changing just being able to explore different like fictional or real worlds through books and movies. So yeah, that was
Yeah,
kind of my journey to fall in love with movies.
Very much
yeah,
a journey of self-discovery, which it happens for
Yeah.
many people when it comes to movies. there's an intro, like kind of like a gateway, and then once you get in, you kind of run wild and just go
Kind of
with
go on
it
your own, yes.
and pick different paths and all that stuff. Because I always say that you know movies are kind of endless in terms of which paths you can go. You can go halfway down a path and then diverge into someplace else. It's really endless in terms of what you can get into and what you like or don't like and whatnot. Um, when it comes to kind of like your formative years, like you were saying, going to the movies and all that kind of stuff. What was it like for your formal education? Were movies part of that? Like, did you want to become a movie critic or something like that?
It like I mean, my early years, I was watching like when I was a child, I was watching movies about young people who were like fiercely independent or very much wanted to go out and explore the world. Like I was watching like E.T. and The Little Mermaid and Annie. Like I was really drawn to stories about like very headstrong kids and who knew what they wanted out of life. And I was watching the typical movies too, like The Lion King and Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, and but then like when I got into like my teen years, I was watching some movies that were like transformative for me, like Romeo and Juliet from 1968, the Franco Zeffirelli movie with Olivia Hussey and Leonard Whiting, who I got to meet and interview. That was a really
Oh,
amazing. That
amazing.
was like a full circle moment because that movie was so important to me as a teenager. It was taught in English
I was
classes
just
in
going to
high
say
school.
that's the
This
movie before the Baz Luhrmann one came out. That's the
yes,
movie that Romeo and Juliet was shown in
absolutely.
every high school class in America at the
It was
time.
required viewing and like it made and plus it like kind of married my interest of like literary and film in one and that made a huge impact on me. And then like in the 90s when I was in high school, it was very much a time of like literary adaptations and period films like Merchant and Ivory. And then I watched like Sense and Sensibility. I watched a bunch of like there was a great time for like Victorian novels to be adapted, like The Portrait of a Lady, Jane Campion's movie. I was obsessed with that movie for a long time. Michael Winterbottom's Jude, that like completely changed my perspective on okay, how am I going to live my life? Am I going to let destiny guide me or am I going to forge my own path? And even like a fun film like You've Got Mail from 1998, like the Nora Ephron movie, that one was like, maybe I want to work in the book industry. Like some of these movies were really having a strong impact on me. But I didn't really take film studies seriously until college. And I, on and off, like I just needed credits, to add. So I picked a film course for fun and that really like blew my mind. We were watching and analyzing like Out of the Past. That was the first time I had ever watched that movie and I was like, what is this movie? It's so mysterious and a little confusing and it's sexy and it's like it's got a lot of things I want to watch it over and over again. Who's this Robert Mitchum guy? Like I was obsessed. And then we were watching also like Citizen Kane. I wrote a paper on Singing in the Rain and that was my springboard to like really study film and film history. And then I was just watching TCM nonstop and I was renting movies back when there was still Blockbuster, and like so that's when I started taking like actually learning about movies and watching more seriously.
Yeah, I didn't. I only took 1 year of college. I found out school wasn't really my thing, but I did take one film course in college that I loved. I wish I could have just kept doing that, and it was a film analysis class. And
Oh,
I remember the first movie that, for me, my Out of the Past was On the Waterfront. Was the first
oh
movie where
yeah,
I saw it and really wanted to analyze it and really felt like I was looking at the movie past just what was on the surface. Um,
right.
Mm,
and having that discussion in class and seeing what everybody else thought about the film and how they saw the film, it became one of the first experiences I had with other people, where I was discussing a film out loud and feeling like I was connecting with people on the same thing. So
yeah,
that was, yeah, I mean, it could be a
similar
great
here.
atmosphere for film,
Yeah, it
analysis.
was similar for me as well. I had already been a big film fan. I had already, um, you know, I had already started collecting movies by the time I had started taking film courses. I think 2011, 2012 was when I was starting to take some film courses. Um, I I when I went to college in 2006, my college really didn't have film courses. They didn't have a film department. I don't even think they still do to this day a film studies. But I had switched from undergrad to part time, and I was taking like two courses a semester, lessening the workload. And then when you get towards the end, like Raquel said, there's electives you've got to take where you've got to fill in those requirements. And I was like, I love movies. Let me start taking these film courses. So the first one I took was like kind of like not a 101, but it was like history of film, like be like the classic era. And we went all the way from like the silent era and moved all the way up to like the 1980s, I think. And that's when I was introduced to Italian neorealism and the French New Wave, and then the British realism from the 60s and whatnot. And also when I was introduced to film noir and people like Orson Welles. I think the first Orson Welles film I ever saw was The Stranger. That was the one they
Oh,
showed us, and it's not
wow.
known as one of his better films, but I've always liked it because it was my intro to like his version of film noir. And then of course I would go back and watch Citizen Kane and The Trial and The Magnificent Ambersons. I'm just a gigantic Orson Welles uh, not aficionado, a fan, big fan of his work, and I've just delved into all of his work and whatnot. So I talk about him every time I can on here, because it's the
He's
most bittersweet.
fascinating.
It's the one of the most bittersweet of careers you've ever seen because there's so much
Yeah.
that he never got to do,
I,
and there's so much left undone.
I'm surprised there hasn't really been a real like biopic movie about him, like a real like a good like a big. I mean, they haven't really done one of them, have
Well,
they?
they did do Me and Orson Welles, the Richard
Yeah, but
Linklater
that wasn't
film.
like a career spanning,
No, it
like
was just
Mhm.
seeing
movie.
him
Yeah,
at a specific time when
yeah,
he was at the Mercury Theater doing plays, which is
yeah.
where he got his start. His interviews, I always recommend go online to his interviews with Dick Cavett. They're always fascinating on YouTube.
Yes.
Um,
And it's so funny because he was a bigger guy and Dick Cavett's so small. So like already
I had to
you know,
frame them.
like he's got like a huge presence, and it's just like they're really interesting. And like that collection of Orson Welles chats that was it Henry Jaglom had with him,
Yeah,
that they
wasn't
collected
it
in a book.
Lunches with
Lunches with
Orson?
Orson. Yes.
Yes.
I read that and that was fascinating. Just
There's
like his
yeah, there's
mind was just
Oh, yeah.
yeah,
There's also the Peter
something else.
Bogdanovich book, which is just him interviewing
He had a lot of
Orson
stories
Welles.
about him.
They were like friends. Orson lived with him, I think, in the 70s. And he always
Yeah, he
told
did.
there was a great story. He told that Orson Welles loved like late night sitcoms. He loved Dick Van Dyke, so he would be up late at night watching Dick Van Dyke on
That's
television
what
and
I'm saying.
whatnot.
Like, we need a career spanning Orson Welles movie. Like, you could
They
do
should
some.
do it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean,
It would be I mean, whoever played Orson Welles, that would be an Oscar
you
contending,
know who
like,
would have been
department.
fantastic as Orson Welles if he was still alive?
mm,
Philip Seymour Hoffman
mm,
could have
Oh,
maybe been like a
yeah.
really great
yeah.
Orson Welles.
I
Maybe
think I mean,
you know.
he played Capote very, very well.
Yeah,
I was
Yeah.
actually out used book shopping the other day, and I saw the Capote book, and I almost bought it. I probably should have. Maybe I may go back and get it. But actually, that does transition into another kind of fascination, or something that you're into, Raquel, and I can see it literally behind you.
yeah.
Books seem to be a huge part of your life.
Yes. And this is just my collection of film books that's
Mm,
behind me. It's like you can only see, like, 3 shelves, but it's actually a 5-shelf bookshelf that's got over 300 books on it. And, at this point, it's a library. It's good. Like when I move, like, when I pass on, it's going to be the Raquel Stecher Film
li-
Research Library. Somebody's
nice.
going to have to inherit it.
Is
I
it like now? Are you like? Have you read most of them, if not all of them? Are you like us, where we buy movies and we don't have a lot of them that we've watched?
I have read a lot of them, but I've been acquiring more than I can actually keep up with.
There you go. Yeah,
So,
that's us. That's us.
I would say like maybe more than half I've read.
Well, that's better than us
So I've
then.
read a lot.
Okay, good. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's good.
books
And I
were
use
my
a lot
first
for
love.
research. So,
Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, books were my first love as well, collecting books. I say this all the time. I spent many of my teenage years just hanging out in bookstores for hours and not really buying anything. I remember Borders bookstores were a big thing here. That was my favorite
oh,
store. And
I
there
bought my
was one.
first DVD there.
Yeah, I used to buy DVDs there too, and then I used to buy books and whatnot. But I would just stay there for hours as a teenager by myself, just but walking the shelves and whatnot. And I also remember you, Raquel, used to do YouTube videos about your book collection, and
Yes.
I would watch them with a fine tooth comb and like be on my Goodreads, like
Oh,
hunting them down to add, because I'm like, I might as well learn from the experts. That's how you have to learn these things. There are people out there sharing their knowledge, so it's like you've gotta like take from the experts because sometimes you just don't
yes.
know. Ignorance is not um it's not something to be ashamed of. You know what I mean? We're always trying to learn everything as we go. So take information from people who you trust, really. Um, but yeah, I know you have a massive book collection, and did that start early on, collecting books and buying books?
Yeah, no, I've been buying books since I was a little kid and I could use my allowance to buy R.L. Stein horror novels. I mean, like it goes back that far, but um like I think my first ever film book was actually about the making of Citizen Kane, and it had some information about also the making of the Magnificent Ambersons. So Orson Welles, that's basically my first film book. And then just like the books that I got in that course that I took in college. And then from there, it just accumulated. And when I got really serious about classic movies and really wanted to do more research and learn more, then that's when the book collection grew and grew. And since I was just at the TCM Classic Film Festival last month, I make a trip every time I'm there to Larry Edmunds' bookshop on Hollywood Boulevard. And I just have a nice chat with Jeff, the owner, and I scan all their books. I think I bought 9 this time. And I was like, "Can you ship it to me? Because I don't think I'll fit it in my luggage."
It's,
So I
it's
have
amazing,
been.
amazing that you say that
Oh
because I've
yes,
got the
the
bookmark
classic
here.
bookmark.
Larry Edmunds Bookshop since 1938, Hollywood Boulevard. Because that's where I bought, coincidentally, Eddie Muller's most recent book. I think he did a hardcover re-release of his film noir book, and I bought that like
Yes, the
last
Dark
year. And then
City.
yes,
Yes.
Dark City, and then I got these in the mail, came with it. So I've just had them around, and it's amazing that you just mentioned that. Um, I also follow them on social media. If anybody's interested, they do have an online store where you can buy kind of exclusive autographed books and whatnot that are
Yeah.
specifically for there, which are really cool.
Yeah, I think he's selling the Eddie Muller's Dark City and probably Noir Bar that's coming out later this month, which I'm reading right now, and it's pairing 50 different film noirs with a cocktail recipe for each. It's so if anyone loves film noir and cocktails, it's like a nice combo. But yeah, no, I've gotten like many signed books from there, and I think like I have like some prize collections. Like I have like a copy of Walter Mirish's memoir, and it's signed to Robert Boyle.
Oh wow!
And I think it must have been part of Robert Boyle's estate, the great art director who worked with Alfred Hitchcock. So I have like Walter Mirish's signature, and it was something that Robert Boyle owned, which is pretty cool. And I have like signed books by like Carl Reiner and Dick Cavett. So I have like a selection.
Oh, I'm incredibly jealous, because my dad and my brother, they drove across country, so they drove all the way from the Northeast to LA. This was years and years and years ago, and they went to Larry Edmunds bookstore when it was on Sunset, I think, because I think it's since moved
Okay,
because
it
of
moved around a bit. Yeah.
yeah, and they went there, and my brother was FaceTiming me in it, and I had no idea the concept of the store, and I just remember seeing the shelves and shelves. I had them buy me some screenplays of like Stalag
Oh yeah.
17 and then stuff like that, and I was just like, yeah, I didn't even know how to respond. I think I got the big Warner Brothers like history of Warner Brothers book, like I something you remember or something like that. I think it has the same name as the podcast. I can't remember. And I got him.
You must
They
remember
actually
this?
yes, I think I got that. And then I also got actually Dark City when it was the paperback version of that.
Oh,
I
yeah.
got that as well. And then they went and did like a tour at Paramount and stuff. So they got me some
Oh,
stuff from
nice.
there. Like the Godfather screenplay, I think. or they got me something to do from there, like all the promotional stuff and whatnot. It was interesting. They FaceTimed me when they went to the gates of Paramount, and I kind of
Oh,
cried.
yeah, the
I kind of
famous
cried.
gates.
So I was like living surrogately through them while they were in LA, because I remember the Paramount gate in Sunset Boulevard, where
Mm,
when Norma Desmond goes there to the lot and whatnot and sees Cecil B. DeMille, and I'm like, it's kind of amazing. That's it's half a century later and it's still there. So
yeah.
that's incredible. But this is the Raquel show, not the Andrew have nostalgia for things
I think
show.
that's interesting. Yeah, I mean, it's so cool, I think. I mean, Hollywood, it's not like the best place to travel to, but if you're into film history, there's so much that's still there that has a special connection. It's really cool to see it in person.
Yeah, and I guess that's as good a good a place to kind of transition into. I know you go to the TCM Film Festival all the time, and you cover actually several film festivals. So I
Mhm.
guess I wanted to kind of get into that, because I think you didn't you go to South by Southwest this year as well?
Yes. Yeah,
Yes.
so I've been covering the TCM Classic Film Festival since 2013. Um, Pretty much all the way through. I had to take a break in 2019, and then the pandemic, it turned to virtual. But pretty much consistently since then, I've gone every year, and it's changed over the years, but the first several years I went were like absolutely magical. Like there was every single festival, there was like life-changing experiences, and I just could not believe I would be talking about what I experienced at that festival the entire year. I'd make everyone sick of me, which was actually good that I had a blog that I could just put that out there and have people who were interested. And I know that some people told me that they came to the festival based off of my coverage and other people's coverage that they read. So and then in like 2018, I got really interested in possibly expanding my career to new movies. So the one big thing that I did was I signed up for the media inclusion program that the Toronto International Film Festival had. And I don't remember if it was their first year doing it, but it was their first like really big push for it. They wanted smaller, like up and coming writers, people of color, LGBTQ, women. They wanted to see if they could expand their reach. And I applied for that and I got in, and that opened like so many doors for me. Because the TIFF festival is just like it's pretty much like the big North American festival. It's where most of the Oscar contenders premiere in North America, or just it like have their world premieres. It's a really big festival. And from there, I got into Rotten Tomatoes. They accepted me because of that program. South by Southwest actually invited me to apply for that festival the following year because of the TIFF media inclusion. So I was just like on a roll. It was great. And then like the pandemic closed a bunch of stuff, but it opened up virtual festivals. So I got to attend Slam Dance, Sundance, AFI, and a bunch of like smaller festivals like Nashville, Indie Memphis, and things like that. So I really got to expand my reach. My favorite small festival is Double Exposure Film Festival, which happens in DC every year, and it's all investigative journalism in terms of like documentaries and shorts. It's really one of my favorite festivals. It's very, very niche. But yeah, like covering the festivals has been so much fun. Both virtually and in person. Person obviously is going to be more expensive because I got to pay for my own way. Um,
Yeah.
but like Cannes is happening right now. That would be amazing to go to, but that's like really hard
Yeah,
to get into.
that's
Yeah.
always been, they talk about bucket list lifetime goals.
Oh
I get to
yeah.
hang out in the south of France and go to a film festival. It's kind of a double whammy there.
I mean, I
Yeah.
don't wear high heels, but I get some high heels if that's their rule, to
Yeah.
go.
Yeah, whatever the
I'll
dress
wear
code
high
is.
heels. I'll do it. I'll
Yeah,
do it.
whatever the dress code is.
Yeah.
Let's roll.
Um, what I've been to one festival. I went to Telluride, and
Oh yeah, I've always wanted to go to that one.
it was amazing. But what is it about the festival experience that's your favorite? Like for me, it was just being around people that are there for the same thing that everybody's there for film and they're just talking and getting into random conversations. And that was my favorite thing. What's your favorite thing about the festival
I mean, that
experience?
is one of my favorite things is being part of the audience, getting to talk to people in line even before you
Yeah.
even get into the movie is really amazing, meeting new people and then watching like a big world premiere of like this big movie and then the director there's the cast there, the audience is just super excited. If it's a funny movie, it's even more funny when it's there, like
Yeah.
when you have that energy. So that's really amazing. And I also just love being part of sort of like many little historical moments. Like I've been to several like world premieres and that's really cool. Like one of the coolest things that happened to me in 2018 was I went to the Michael Winterbottom movie The Wedding Guest, which stars Dev Patel. It's like this international
Yeah.
like thriller. And I wrote a review and a quote from my review is on the cover of the Blu-ray of the movie. And that was like, what? That's
Yeah.
amazing.
I
So
remember that because I remember you posting about it, and then I will see that Blu-ray on like online to buy. Your quote is still on it. Your quote is still on it.
yay, I love that.
It's all these years later. It's still there.
But
Yeah.
the
I mean, that's,
festival experience is like just like being in person and being with other movie lovers and even like each festival has their own vibe. Like TIFF, like it they have a huge local presence. There's a lot of
yeah.
Toronto cinephiles and they're very particular about their movies. So it's so cool just to even hear people like criticizing and breaking down what they just saw and be excited about what they're about to see. So that's really cool
Yeah.
too.
Yeah, when I was in Telluride, it was weird because it was almost just like a normal town. Like it was like there was a soccer practice going on in the middle of the town. Like normal life was happening around us. But then there was just tons of people walking the streets, going to the next theater, waiting outside, like and at the time, that time of the year, it wasn't quite ski season yet. Hadn't snowed yet, but it was in the mountain, you could see snow on the tops of the mountains, but wasn't quite there yet. But yeah, it was amazing that it's like the whole town gets turned into this big festival. Some of the theaters are there all year round, and a few of them are made up for the festival. And yeah, it was just cool, man. I took a ski lift down the mountain to get into the town, and it's like it's like this big intro, this big thing. You see the whole festival in front of you as you're going down the mountain, and then yeah, you
That's
just
so cool.
it was I don't know. I don't know if I need to go to another festival because that festival was
You've
so
been
amazing.
spoiled. You've been
I
spoiled.
just want to go back to
Did
Telluride, honestly.
the
But
TCM hosts go every year. Like that's
yeah,
their one festival. They just go for fun. Um and it kind of kicks off the fall season of festivals
it
too, because
does.
then you
Yeah,
got Telluride and then you got TIFF and then you got all the other ones that stack
Mm.
after.
yeah,
Yeah, I know the Venice Film Festival's around that time as well, and all
Yeah,
the celebrities show up on gondolas and whatnot. Um, I'm a big Paul Newman fan. Like Paul Newman's my favorite actor of all time,
I love
and
Paul
there's
Newman.
always the pictures of him at I think like the 1963 Venice Film Festival that people always share every single year on social media, and I'm like, yep, just Paul Newman 1963 Venice Film Festival, him on a gondola, and people go crazy for it.
There's some
so,
great pictures of Robert Mitchum on the beach at Cannes, and like I love
oh
those
yeah.
old festival pictures. Yeah.
It's very interesting. I was thinking of that earlier, how like now we're kind of making our own versions of that now with our modern day celebrities, or even
Yeah.
like the kind of older generations of celebrities. Because I know, I mean, I think we talked about him a little bit before. Jack Nicholson kind of just came out of, not the kind of resurged out into the open, like he's at the Laker games now and whatnot, and you're seeing him interact with other celebrities there, and it's kind of interesting because we look at these older pictures of when those generations of celebrities were older interacting at public events, award shows, film festivals, and we're kind of now making our own memories of those. And I just find it very fascinating because one day, 10, 20 years from now, people will be looking at these social media pictures that we see now and reminiscing about them like we are reminiscing about ones from, 50, 60 years ago. It's kind of interesting how
Absolutely. Like
time
the
moves on.
classic movie era keeps expanding as we get further and further away, and new classics are being made every year. And Also, some
Yeah,
movies are being forgotten too. Like it kind of all evolves over time.
it really does. The movie history, film history is always expanding, and I think our minds kind of have to kind of expand with them. You know,
Mhm.
there's always a lot like there's always a lot of things when it comes to what's considered a classic film. There's always people arguing like, oh, nothing past 1980s should be considered a classic movie. You know what I mean? There are arguments
Mhm.
when ECM airs a more modern film, like
Oh
from the
yeah, it
90s
gets
or even
pretty heated.
2000s. It gets very heated, and I'm like, some of these movies are 20, 30, 40 years old now. It's getting to
Yeah.
that point where those films are considered classics now from the 90s. It's very interesting how our mind has to kind of shift as time goes on, but some people don't really want to shift
They
with
don't
the
want to
times.
they don't want to shift their mind. But
They don't.
And some
but getting
people are very particular. They're like, "Oh, it has to be from, 30s to 50s." And they won't even take older than that because they don't want to see silence, like people get very particular. I have more of an open mind. I mean, my guideline for classic movies, what I cover, has like stretched out into like the early 80s, and that will just keep going as the years progress.
yeah.
Yeah, I think there are certain eras that I think are kind of marked off. You know what I mean? Like we talk about like the classic noir era. I consider from 1940 to like 1958. You know what I mean? I think of
Mhm.
like the Maltese Falcon to Touch of Evil is like my
Mhm.
bracket of classic film noir. I know other people shift to like late 30s, maybe more into the 60s, but that seems to be my the way I recollect it.
Yeah.
Right.
Now, speaking of things that are kind of getting left behind, you did talk about how you write about DVD Netflix, and of course, we found out that that's going away this year. Um, so
I
tell
love
us,
my DVD.com.
yeah,
Yeah, for as long as I've been following Raquel, she's been championing DVD Netflix,
yeah,
which I don't even know if a lot of modern people who use Netflix realize that that's the way Netflix started was mail-in
Yeah.
DVDs.
yeah.
I
So
mean, I
so
started it in college when it
yeah,
was it was in 2002 that I had started, and it was just DVDs. There was no streaming.
yeah. Yeah, it was something that I always knew about, but I wasn't quite on board with it. Like I mean, I was still going to Blockbuster, I guess, and we had some more independent video stores in the area, so I went to them places. But I'd always heard about it, and then one day, then the streaming thing started. But so since that's going away, what's going to happen with the articles, or what are we going to do now? I mean, is that going to end with the DVD Netflix era of articles, or what are you going to move on to?
I know, that's really sad. I've been working with DVD Netflix since 2017, and it's kind of wild since because I've been a pretty consistent member for like over 20 years. I used it a lot in my early education of movies, and I too also did like my local video store, then
Yeah,
Blockbuster, and then Netflix. So like I'm gonna save my articles, and I'm still writing for them. They're in their last season, going to September, and my editor is like really excited for me to just like contribute some interesting pieces about what people can rent right now before it's called Get Through My Queue, and it's basically like
yeah,
make sure you tackle all those movies that you want to see, because DVD Netflix has always been a really great place, especially in the streaming era, to watch a bunch of things, especially if you're more of an intentional movie viewer. Like you kind of know what you want to see and you don't want to pay for like 10 streaming services. I
yeah,
have several streaming services, but like I had to like shut off Hulu for a bit. Like I can't afford all of them, but I always had my DVD Netflix one where, okay, if it's on Hulu, but it's also on Blu-ray here, I can just rent it and watch it. And it was a great way for me to do research, and I didn't mind just waiting for the next movie on my queue. I don't need that instant gratification. And also like streaming, like it can get really overwhelming too. Like there's so many choices, then I just don't pick something because I'm just overwhelmed. I'll just watch Out of the Past again, or I'll watch like whatever is on TCM.
we've talked
So
about we've talked about that kind of conundrum of you know, we talk about how there's access to almost anything you want these days, but what it also does is it kind of kills the kind of anticipation factor of something, like, or discovering something on your own.
Yeah.
Instead, algorithms are sending you things and putting them in your face, and you're not investigating, so you're not creating your own excitement for something. And that's what, like you said, that's what you're doing when you're an intentional, you're going out and you're seeking something, or you're investigating a filmmaker, or you're doing your own kind of work that makes that more enriching, and that's what was so great about the idea of renting movies and DVD, Netflix, or Blockbuster, or whatever video store you went to, that you could put in that work. Convenience is not necessarily always a good thing. So
Right. And I know around the same time that Netflix was doing this stuff, that Redbox showed up, where you could physically rent movies at wherever you could find a Redbox, whether it be at your local Walmart, whether it be at CVS's. There would always be a Redbox outside of those. Redbox is still around, I
it's
think.
still out there. It is.
But
Yeah,
it's
still
much
around.
smaller than it was before. Like, I think their presence isn't as much known. So there are ways to rent. I know, up around here, a lot of the local rental places, once streaming came, they were all pretty much gone. All the blockbusters ended up and whatnot. They just couldn't compete in all of those things. I remember being in high school when Netflix was starting to get up and up before streaming, but people were talking about the renting of the renting over mail and whatnot, and this was like the mid 2000s, and and then streaming kind of took over from there. And streaming, like Raquel said, there are so many streaming services now, to the point you're paying pretty much exactly what you were paying for cable. It's reached that point where especially with the expansion of the prices of, when I first started streaming Netflix, it was $8 and now it's 20, and that was, I think, 2011 or so, around there, maybe a little bit before that. And, so over a decade, they've gone up significantly in price, and then the other ones have resurged as well. It's tough to get all of them and to be able to afford it, and whatnot. And so physical media is still, I think, making a little bit of a comeback. Not a comeback, but its resurgence is, I think, kind of happening. Um, you had the Disney CEO recently say, "Hey, maybe we should be investing more into the physical media side, because their streaming is kind of going down. The streaming bubble, I think, is kind of shrinking. The post-COVID times, things are kind of shrinking back down." So it's very interesting, kind of the way the landscape is going, I think, when it comes to how we consume movies. The biggest thing, which is great for me, or for, I guess, a lot of classic film fans, is the availability to stream classic movies. I think is a huge thing. I remember Filmstruck was a massive gain in that.
Oh, I miss Filmstruck.
I always bring it up.
Amazing.
Did you ever do any work for Filmstruck?
No, I came after that. But that was like the marriage of TCM and Criterion, and it was just magical. Like Criterion Channel is like amazing, but like it was just the Filmstruck, the curation was just really interesting. What they did with their social media was really engaging and fun, and it was just a magical time. And I remember like Martin Scorsese was just upset when like they announced that Filmstruck was shutting down. He's like, how could we save it? I mean, like everyone up to like celebrities and well-known directors loved it too. So there's a lot of love around that. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, there were a lot of people in the TCM realm who worked on a lot of different aspects of Filmstruck. I know Alicia Malone, who's a host at TCM now for years. She was doing a lot of work over there. I remember her at film festivals, at different merchandising groups when it was first getting off the ground and whatnot. And she would do a lot of hosting segments for that as well. And
she did Filmstruck Fridays.
Yes, she did. Yes, she did. Oh, my goodness.
That was a great series.
Yeah.
She was actually, I would watch, she used to have this amazing YouTube channel where she would vlog at different festivals, and I would watch her. Yeah, no, I was completely amazed. And I would actually watch all of her South by Southwest festival vlogs before I went there to learn how it was. And I wrote to her. I'm like, what should I do? And she was very like forthcoming with advice. I was mentored by her at one point, so she was really amazing. And I know that that's how she got her start at TCM, was with Filmstruck, and then it moved from there. So it's cool
Yeah,
to see her as like a host.
I had followed her work even before then, when she was doing several YouTube movie related shows and whatnot for other different companies and
Her
whatnot when
indie
she was
movie
doing
guide
hosting.
is still up, and it's
Yeah,
I love that.
I
I've
remember,
been watching some of those that she recommends.
I remember when her and Scott Mantz were doing a show. Her and Scott Mantz would also their own
Oh
show
yeah.
afterward, where they would interview certain celebrities and whatnot, and they would talk about movies. And then I have several of her books actually. Actually, I've read.
Yeah.
So I have to get her third most recent book that she did, but I have her first two. I do have. And then yeah, she did a
Girls on
lot.
Film.
Yes, was the second one, and then the first one was it Backwards and in Heels? That
Yeah,
famous
Backwards and
quote
in
about
Heels.
Ginger
Yeah.
Rogers. I
Yes.
yeah, and I remember seeing her at the Sundance Film Festival. And I'd always wanted to go to Sundance, and then I would see her like walking back from screenings late at night when it's like 15 degrees and there's like 6 feet of snow on the ground, and I'm like, oh, maybe I won't get to Sundance. maybe it looks a little harsh out there.
That's the one thing with festivals. You have to have like this endurance, and sometimes you have to sacrifice sleep and food, and that's something I have a hard time with that. Like I need my sleep, and I need to eat my meals
Yeah,
to keep myself going.
the logistics of going to film festivals, especially if you want to see as many movies as you can. If you're not, I don't know, because I think you've gone as probably as just like buying a guest pass as well as a press pass, and I'm pretty sure there's a difference between that.
Well, with the TCM Classic Film Festival, the media pass and the basic classic pass that gets you into pretty much everything are equal. You don't really get any
Oh,
special benefits. There are like some press events that you can apply for, but really it's just a pass like the regular standard pass. But for other film festivals, it differs. Like South by Southwest has all these different levels of passes. Some festivals don't even do passes. They just do like single tickets. Like the International Film Festival in Boston here, I think only does like single tickets. So yeah, it varies. And yeah, each festival is different. Like I'm never hungry at South by Southwest because there's food trucks everywhere, there's restaurants everywhere. It's so easy to get a meal. TCM, I'm always hungry.
it isn't the TCM Fest like like in Hollywood, in Los
It's in
Angeles, right?
Hollywood. Yeah,
Yeah,
the
and
Roosevelt is like the hub of it, and that's where like the headquarters really of the festival is. And then a lot of the movies are shown across the street at the TCL Chinese, what was known as the Grauman's, and then the Chinese multiplex next door, and then a few theaters like nearby.
Yeah, and I know South by Southwest is also not only a film festival, but they have a music aspect to it, and there's a business aspect to it, and it goes for like let's
Education,
go,
tech, like it's a
yeah,
big like it's like a festival of festivals.
yeah, it goes for like 2 weeks, doesn't it? It goes for quite
Yeah,
long.
that's a really long one. Yeah, I only end up going for 4 or 5 days for just the film one, but you could be there 2 weeks and just do a bunch of really cool stuff.
Yeah, same as was it? What? There's a Canadian film festival. It's pretty long too, wouldn't it? The one that's up there
Talk
recently
about,
happened at the beginning of the year, right?
talk about Fantasia Fest.
Fantasia Fest, isn't that pretty long too?
I think it
It,
is, but
it's like,
I thought that happened later in the year. Or am I thinking of Fantastic Fest?
or maybe that's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah,
One of them's pretty long as well. It's like
right.
it was like a couple weeks long or something like that.
Yeah, I've
There's a
always wanted.
Seattle one that's a month long.
Oh wow,
Wow, you just live in Seattle for a month.
yeah, just go live in Seattle. Yeah,
I've my one of my ones that I always wanted to go to, and I thought of going to it before the whole pandemic thing happened, was the Provincetown Film Festival that happens every June
Oh, that
in
would be
Provincetown,
really
Cape Cod.
cool.
I know it's all the way at the end tip of Cape Cod. It's like a 3-hour drive from where I live, probably maybe closer to where
Okay.
Raquel
I
maybe
would
lives
take a
closer
ferry
to it.
over. I wouldn't want to drive
Probably
like all the way
right
up.
over the
Yeah.
bay. Yeah, I live like just around Providence, so it's about like a 3-hour drive. I've been to the Cape many times. I've never been to the end where Provincetown is.
I haven't
Um,
either.
and it's always one I wanted to go to because I always want to meet John Waters, and I know he goes there every year.
I
And
have heard that. Yeah.
I always mention John Waters at least once on every episode here, so this is my one
Nice.
for this episode.
Do you? Every
Yeah,
episode? I've never
not
noticed
every
that.
episode, but most of them. And I always hold up my copy of Pink Flamingos that I have next to me
It's
for
weird.
moral
Nice.
support.
For no reason.
For
Just
For no
it's a
reason.
running joke with the DVD Netflix crew that every time we have a DVD chat on Twitter, that Cary Grant's mentioned at every single one, and
Oh,
it's very
nice.
consistent.
Oh, good. He should be mentioned for everything. I have certain movie collecting goals for certain actors and actresses where I want to get all of their work. Cary
Nice.
Grant's one of them. So I'm always
Okay.
trying to get every Cary Grant film I possibly can. It's tougher to find his earlier work, but it's starting to come out now. Like I know
Mm.
they've released all of like the Mae West films, and he was in one of those. So I got to add that to the collection and whatnot. Yeah, I've always been a big fan of Cary Grant. Just one of my all-time favorites, really. I got into him when I started getting into Alfred Hitchcock, and he
Oh,
was
okay.
in, you know,
North by
Suspicion,
Northwest
Notorious,
and yeah.
West, and I was just and enthralled by him, and of course, the one he was in with Grace Kelly,
To Catch a Thief.
To Catch a
Oh yeah,
Thief.
To Catch a
Thank you.
Thief. Yeah, that's my husband's favorite.
Nice.
Yeah. I have a similar goal as Andrew said. Mine's Nicolas Cage. I just I get every Nicolas Cage movie on Blu-ray.
Nice.
even
Nice.
the last 10 years worth of Nicolas Cage. But so speaking of we talked about your collection of books, but what about film, physical media film? Are you collecting? Is there a movie collection in there somewhere too?
Yes, so this is upstairs in the loft to keep away from my dog. And then downstairs by the television, and enclosed is my movie collection. And I was looking at my movie count. I have about 900 plus individual movies, but I have them across lots of different things like Blu-rays, DVDs, box sets, and all sorts of different box sets. I have a lot from Warner Archive, Kino Lorber. I have a modest Criterion collection basically, but I would love to increase that. It's like I just got the Romeo and Juliet release that they did in February. Super excited about that because I had never owned that movie, but I love that movie. So that was really cool. But yeah, I'm still collecting. Actually, I was part of a Blu-ray release. I was a contributor to the Indicator series release of State of the Union from 1948.
Yeah,
I got
we
to write
mentioned
a booklet
mentioned
essay
that.
for it. Oh, okay.
Yeah, we mentioned that when it happened, because there've been a lot of people that I've known through the social media that have contributed to the Indicator things, writing essays and whatnot, which has been fantastic. How did that kind of come about? If I don't mean to sidetrack you.
Oh no, I was invited by somebody who works at Powerhouse, I believe it is Powerhouse Films, and it was like, hey, we needed a last minute writer, and I was like, yes, please. That's like a bucket list item for me was to write for a booklet essay for a Blu-ray release. I really thought that was going to be something really cool to do, and yeah, that was just like awesome. And I'm like, hey, I'll do more if you'd like. I write research articles all the time. It's my expertise, so I'm happy to do it. And I mean, like, it also, like, there's so many like really great boutique labels. I know you guys talk about this a lot, but Indicator is really interesting. Like Undercrank Productions, which is like a small boutique label run by the silent film accompanist Ben Modell. He's been doing really great things, and he's having his like 10th anniversary, I think, next month. And then it's like Flicker Alley, like their collaboration with the Film Noir Foundation has been really cool, and they've had some like really interesting releases. Repeat Performance is one of my favorites of theirs. Like, it's really cool. You know, it's still going, even though it's the threat of streaming kind of looms over us. But there's so many of us who are very passionate about physical media, and it's not something I can give up. My collection will still grow as long as I can. And my big thing is I have like an obscene number of my favorite movie, Bachelor Mother from 1939. It's my top favorite movie. I have like
what is your
10
count?
copies of it.
Oh.
I think 10 right now.
What did you end up maxing out on in terms of how many you owned throughout?
Oh, I've owned over 30, but the thing is, I acquired them to give them away. So I wanted at least, because what happened was when I first saw that movie on TCM, I recorded it on a VHS tape, then I lost the VHS tape for years. And then I would record it every time it was on. And then when it came out on DVD from Warner Archive, I was like, I need multiple of this of this movie. This is my favorite movie. What if I lose it again? That fear of losing it. And then I just decided, oh, I should just give this out to my friends. Like, it's my favorite movie. Wouldn't that be like a fun gesture just to give my favorite movie to my friends? So I would buy extra copies when they had their big sales, and I would just randomly pick a friend to send it to. And it was like a kind of a goodwill like thing that I did, and I still have more. I've given them away on my blog, and I just like passing along my favorite movie.
Yeah, you never have to worry about getting people birthday presents, holiday presents. You always have something like in reserve. You know what I mean?
Well, I'm
You're
gonna get
always
sick of me
ready.
at this point.
She's given me 3 copies.
I know, 3
Like,
copies.
please.
I don't know what to do.
I try to keep track so I don't send people multiple.
Oh goodness. Oh goodness, because yeah, that could probably happen. I always used to do that too. I used to buy people movies as gifts, but then I couldn't remember, do they have this movie already? Do they not have it?
Oh,
Because it used to
yeah.
be mutual friends who were also collectors as well. So I was like,
Mhm.
I hope they don't already have this. So,
I
so
mean,
it's
I
like,
have been given multiple copies of The Friends of Eddie Coyle, the book and the movie. So, I mean, people knew I'm a Robert Mitchum fan, so they're like, "You gotta have this." I'm like, "Thank you, I already have it." I try not
yeah,
to say that I have it. It's like, it's
yeah,
fine.
you
Now I have
can't,
the Blu-ray.
yeah, you can't have enough Robert Mitchum, I think. I mean, talk about out of the
No.
past. We just talked about, because Warner Archive is releasing Angel Face on Blu-ray.
Oh, the
So
Otto Preminger,
we just
yes.
brought about that. I did bring up the story of the I isn't actually, I'm glad that you're here because you can confirm this now. Isn't that the making of is when Robert Mitchum hit Otto Preminger during the making of that movie?
Slapped him across the face.
I was right then. Yeah. And I
Yeah,
think
because
it
he
had
was directing a slap, I think, and then Robert Mitchum was like, "Is this how you want me to do it?"
yeah.
Yeah.
And it
Would have
had
been cool to
Amazing.
see in person.
Yeah, it's
Because
hard
Otto
to believe that
Preminger, yeah. Go
it's
ahead.
hard to believe that anybody would hit anybody on a film set
Yeah, 'cause
nowadays.
it's never happened.
That would never happen
Yeah.
now. Um, you would hear about it the next day, and somebody would be getting sued. Somebody be no.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, it's happened not recently. I couldn't think of a thing,
Well, I
but I
mean, we
remember.
know about Will Smith. We know
Well,
that
not,
happened,
but
but
I meant like
that's something else.
that happened with George Clooney with when they did three, was it three, what's the movie he did with Three Kings, the David O.
Three
Russell film?
Kings, yeah, the David O.
Yeah,
Russell.
I'm pretty sure they almost got in a fist fight during the making of that
Oh
movie.
yeah, I've heard that story. Yeah,
Yeah,
or even I think there was a lot of kind of fighting on The Revenant with DiCaprio and Hardy. Like
Oh.
there was a lot of like
Hmm.
because Inarritu had them out there in like the set. They hated making that movie because it was so
Well, he
like
shot it like on
yeah
location during
yeah
the winter, I think,
yeah
Yikes.
because they wanted to get this specific lighting, like the natural lighting, a
yeah
la like a Terrence Malick or something like that. Because well, it was shot by Lubeski, who I think did most of Malick's work, I think.
yeah for yeah
And yeah, it's yeah, so that thing can happen. There are a lot of egos when it comes to filmmaking. That's a whole other
sure.
podcast.
Yes.
But yeah, so Bachelor Mother has always been your favorite film. Well, not always, but it's been your favorite film now for years, I think. What is it about that movie specifically that kind of drew you to it?
I think it's just light fun. I love the New Year's theme of like starting over, and I like how it kind of shows you what they had to do with the production code. Essentially, it's a movie about an unwed mother, but she's really not an unwed mother because she just found this baby on the doorstep of an orphanage, and everyone thinks it's hers. But that's how they got away with telling the story of an unwed mother, kind of climbing the ranks and marrying this guy who runs a department store. So I like kind of that subtlety. It's a fun movie. Ginger Rogers and David Niven are really great. There's lots of like fun jokes. And it's just a comfort movie. I just like watching it every year. It's something to have on the background, or just like I like to sometimes not watch it for a while and then watch it with kind of a fresh perspective. And I don't know. We all have our comfort movies that we watch over and over again, and this is one of mine.
Yeah, mine used to be The Dark Knight for some reason. Like when I was a kid, like it was like I would put The Dark Knight on, and it was always Batman was always on in the background. But then it was The Matrix as well. The Matrix
Yeah,
was another one that I had on the background.
I mean,
Always, you know.
for me, it's always been Lord of the Rings. I've always growing up, I was
Ah.
always big into fantasy, sci-fi. It wasn't until later on where I got into more classic
Yeah.
cinema and more dramatic cinema and stuff like that.
Now, if it was classic, it happened one night is like my
Mm.
favorite, one of my
Oh,
favorite
that's a
classic
I
great
films.
one.
introduced
Yeah,
Steven. No, I didn't
you
introduce you to
did,
that
you
movie.
did,
Yeah, okay, I'll take
yeah,
the credit then.
yeah,
Fine.
you did.
It happened one night, which is the quintessential romantic comedy. It's the staple of the
Mhm.
whole genre, really. It's the one every other rom-com after would be kind of
Incredibly
riffing off of.
influential. Yeah.
Yeah.
Incredibly influential. What a kind of just a timeless film, really. A lot of those films from that era of the 30s are kind of timeless and whatnot in many of its aspects. Um, it's also kind of interesting how classic cinema is constantly referenced throughout pop culture now. You know what I
Oh,
mean? Over the
yes.
years, it never goes away, even up to modern times, and even in modern filmmaking, they're still utilizing camera shots, camera movements, utilizing themes, utilizing production things and whatnot to make modern films. I mean, we're having a new
And also
Indian.
the
Yeah,
stories too. Like we're all
yeah,
like the Academy loves a movie about movies or a movie about Hollywood. So you have movies like Babylon or Stan and Ollie or like movies about Mank too, like
Well, I mean,
movies about the industry.
what's that new movie Charlie Day's got coming out? That's got a very. I mean, I know he said it's influenced a lot by like Hal Ashby's being there, but like his new movie coming out, something full or something
yeah. I
like
think
that.
it literally just came out. It's his directorial debut,
Yeah,
and I think it just came out, and it's what's it called? Uh, I have to look it up. But it's apparently it's been in the works since like 2018, and it's just been sitting on the back burner. Oh, Fool's Paradise.
Fool's
That's what
Paradise.
it is.
Yeah, and
Oh,
it's
Um,
got
okay.
it's about I think movie making, but he plays a character that's silent the whole time. Like it's like this really weird kind of like
I think
throwback.
I think he
Um,
was kind of influenced by like Charlie Chaplin and something like that,
yeah,
where Chaplin would play the silent roles and whatnot. Um, yeah, that's what I've heard, and that movie's been on the back burner I think for many years.
it looks pretty good though. I'm excited to see it.
I think when he was working on the screenplay, he sent it to Guillermo del Toro to kind of like help him out with it. And I think Guillermo del Toro gave him
That's
some
an interesting
pointers and helped
choice.
him.
Yeah,
Well, they had worked together on Pacific Rim. I think that
yeah.
was where that connection is from right there. And
And Guillermo del Toro's a huge classic movie fan too.
oh
So
Yeah.
yeah, his
Shape of
bleak house.
Water. The Shape of Water is like
The Shape
oh,
of
I
Water was
love that movie.
A Douglas Sirk monster film, and just
yeah.
Creature of the Black
incredible.
Lagoon, kind of like
Makes no
reimagined
job.
Gothic
and
romance, as he likes to say,
Oh,
Gothic
Gothic
romance.
romance. The
Yeah,
way they sold Crimson Peak as a horror
yeah.
film when it's a Gothic romance, which is completely
He said it
different.
like 1,000 times and nobody believed him. Nobody
Yeah.
believed him. He was like, "It's a Gothic romance. It's a
He said
Gothic
it in
romance."
every interview.
Yeah,
Every
and everybody's
interview.
like, "Ooh, I want to go see the horror movie," and it's like, "It's a Gothic romance."
Yeah.
Nobody believed him.
And even his The Devil's Backbone, which is,
Yeah,
a ghost story, is also like a dramatic historical film. Even with Pan's Labyrinth, with all of the monster effects and all that stuff, is a historical film set during the Spanish Civil War, and it's all about certain thematic depth and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, he's a classic film fan through and through. All that influence in all of his work. Even his Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, not Cabinet of Dr. Caligari. What's the Netflix thing that he did,
uh,
Steven?
the
Cabinet of
Curiosities.
Curiosities.
Yeah,
Like
um
he made that show just like Alfred Hitchcock Presents, but
yeah,
with his own flavor to it. He did his own like Alfred Hitchcock intros where he would talk to the audience,
yeah.
and then each was kind of an anthology based off of some type of horror element and whatnot. And it was kind of gave me that throwback to Alfred Hitchcock Presents, which I watched a lot as a kid, probably too young, growing up in the 90s, watching it on Nick at Night. That's where I actually got a lot of my classic Hollywood type of things was watching reruns of classic shows. I Love Lucy, Dick Van Dyke, The Mary Tyler Moore Show, all of that stuff, All in the Family, The Jeffersons, Sanford and Son. All of that stuff from that era was how I was introduced to kind of the entertainment of the past. And then the movies came later.
For me, like especially like in the late 80s, early 90s, like cartoon shows like Tailspin and DuckTales and Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers, they all had so many classic movie references. Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers was all film noir. Tailspin was like war movies and westerns, and then DuckTales was kind of like everything else. And these were, creators who grew up like watching these classic movies, and it really like influenced these kids shows that I watched as a kid. So then when I was actually watching the film noir or like these classic movies, I was like, I remember that from that show. Like I
Oh yeah.
remember those old episodes. So like I had that sort of connection, but actually with the Alfred Hitchcock Presents an Hour, like all of the classic movie actors eventually made it onto those shows, and would star in like an episode or two. And I watched the entire Alfred Hitchcock Hour series. Like I just one year I decided I'm just gonna watch the whole thing. Everyone, like all the big names were on there. So those are really fun. They're like little classic movies.
Yeah, they're incredible, and they're all like tight scripts, tight stories.
Yeah.
They're all like macabre. I mean, I think the first ever episode of Alfred Hitchcock Presents stars Vera Miles, and it's a murder, and it's like that's Alfred Hitchcock kind of 101 doing the whole uh the um, the murder where you know as an audience member who committed the murder, and the whole time the characters in the the episode or the movie have to figure it out, but you already
Those are the
know as the
best.
viewer. It's great
Yeah.
suspense. Great
The
suspense.
anticipation, like what happened, but like the anticipation of seeing them figure it out is really cool.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's like I bring up Rope all the time. The movie literally
Oh yeah.
starts with the murder that the whole film is based
Right.
on, and you're just seeing people literally like in the same room as the corpse, and they don't know it. And this is
Well,
1948. How macabre is that?
well, it's a way of causing creating suspense or scares without letting the film making elements be like the forefront. Like they're not going to use the music to make you scared, or they're not going to use the something like that, a part of filmmaking, to make you scared. Instead, they're giving you the information, and then now your imagination is causing the you to get
Well, yeah, that's
intense
the way in
feelings of.
which they shot the shower scene in Psycho,
Yeah,
where it's so quick cutting that you don't really see the knife penetrating or the murder really being committed, but your mind fills in those blanks,
yeah,
and your mind
Especially the
always makes it.
violin.
Yeah, your mind
The
always makes it more
violins
gruesome.
sound like a knife going through.
Yeah, and like that's the way he's leading you there. You're finishing it in your head.
Yeah.
And there was when I took a whole Hitchcock course when I was in college, and he purposely would manipulate the audiences during his movies, like to hook them and to play with them and all that stuff. Like Rare Window, where you're supposed to be put in the voyeuristic viewpoint of the Jimmy Stewart character, to the point where you're the audience member is becoming the voyeur, and then playing on the whole the tabooness of voyeurism and stuff like that, and it just makes you feel kind of uncomfortable looking back at it. You become almost participating in the actions in these movies, willingly or non-willingly. And I guess that's a whole different kind of ballgame when it comes to entertainment in movies, where I think nowadays you're almost sitting back and watching the action happen without you kind of being immersed in it for the most part. You know what I mean? It almost seems like you're just there to watch a show versus like participating in this event that's going on. I mean, of course, different screenings, different people have different tendencies and whatnot. But I just feel like that old sense of movie making may be a little bit lost now. It's very fascinating how the history of all of that has kind of gone on.
Yeah,
Um,
there's a lot more passive watching than active watching, and
mhm.
active watching is so much more fun.
Very much so. Very much. I think a lot of that has to do with the way in which we consume movies now. We have
Yeah.
people watching movies on their cell phones while riding in a car. It's a
A
lot
a
different.
really sad thing that's happening now is people are watching movies on short little clips on TikTok out of order. And
I've
it's
seen
like
that.
and there's no credit of the movie or, like, who made it because they don't wanna get in trouble with copyright. And, so you have these people watch these little clips of movies, they're like, "What happens next?" And it's like part 1 of 17. But that's like, you're not watching the movie that's not really a good way to watch the movie,
That's a
but
flip book. That's a flip book.
it's a flip book. It's
That's not
awful.
that's
it's
terrible. I
it's
didn't even know about that. I
yeah.
hate that.
Well, Steven,
And
you're not on
also,
the
there's another
TikTok.
thing too
No.
where they don't actually just show you clips of the movie. They just, like, will narrate what happened in the movie and show you little parts of the whole movie and condense it into a minute or 2. That's even worse.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
How did you get motivated to make that kind of
People's
stuff? I
attention
don't.
spans are very
Ugh.
short, I guess. But you're missing so much when you condense a movie. I don't even like to read abridged books. When I see abridged, where basically shortened versions of books, I'm like, no, no, I
Nope.
don't want this at
Yeah.
all. Because they back in when I was in school, you could buy the abridged version of certain classic books or the unabridged. And the unabridged was the full book. The abridged was the shortened version of it. And I guess
Mhm. I remember that.
depending on the teacher,
Yeah.
which one version you would get.
Um, but finishing up with you, Raquel, just to leave, we know because we know you're a big classic, as we've talked about this whole episode, classic film fan. What are if there was? I know I'm putting you on the spot. If there was like 2 or 3 classic films other than Out of the Past, we know that that's essential that you would like people to check out, and we know your favorite film as well. Don't use that one. That you should tell people to check out. What are some films that you think that you really maybe that are a little bit underseen that they should check out?
So, if you think about, like, different parts of the classic movie era, like, for example, Pre-Codes, there's a really wonderful movie called Safe in Hell, and I love to recommend that one. It's kind of like the Me Too movie of the Pre-Code era, and it's just about this woman who is basically, like, it's I think Dorothy McHale's in it, and,
I think it
she's
just got a
basically screwed over
release.
by the mail. Yeah, it
Yeah,
just got a Blu-ray release, I think, from
yeah.
Warner Archive.
It did, yeah.
That one's a great that, like, is a way ahead of its time, and
Okay.
it has, like it starts in an urban setting, goes to a tropical setting. So for Pre-Code, I recommend that. For film noir, if you've already seen, like, the big ones like Double Indemnity or Postman Always Rings Twice, The Setup from 1949 is
Oh yeah,
one of my
yeah.
absolute favorite movies. Robert Ryan, it's like part boxing movie, part film noir, and it's told in real time, and it's like a tight, like, hour and 12 minutes. So
Yeah.
that's a solid movie. And I don't know, there's so many more, like, watching some Fritz Lang silence, like Metropolis, or
Oh
even
yeah.
Woman in the Moon that predicted
Oh yeah.
some space travel. So there's a lot of, like, I actually prefer to research and write about the movies that are lesser known rather than, like, the big ones like Rear Window or Citizen Kane. And I feel like they're
Yeah.
talked about a lot. The smaller films need to be championed too.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
I bring that up all the time where uh, anytime classic film is celebrated, it's always the usual suspects. It's always Gone with the Wind, Casablanca, um, Lawrence of Arabia. It's always all of those films that are on, like, every single, Oscar highlight reel, or Academy Award highlight reel when there's a super wealth of just, like, films that aren't talked about,
Mhm.
that are really, really just absolutely amazing films, especially foreign films. Foreign films, there's a lot of foreign films that people not really recognizing, or really talking about a lot. I'm a big fan of Ozu and Kurosawa and a lot of other foreign
And
filmmakers and
and
whatnot.
through physical media, we're learning a lot about Canada right now.
Yes, there's been a really big push recently for Canadian films kind of being unearthed right now. A lot of people that
Yeah.
we talk to, a lot of companies that we talk to are from Canada, are really putting out a lot of great stuff that we didn't really know existed until now.
Yeah.
And
And
it's been
it's cool that you mentioned Akira Kurosawa because, like, he's mostly known for his like samurai movies, but like I watched One Wonderful Sunday the other day, and that is a fantastic like post World War II kind of like romantic drama set in like the in Tokyo, and you see kind of the ruins of Tokyo in the background. I mean, even less like even if you have a big name like Akira Kurosawa, there's some lesser known films too that are very enriching.
Yeah,
There is.
I watched his movie Dreams last night, and it's completely different than, like you were saying, his samurai films, or even like kind of his early crime films, or post-war
Mhm.
films. The whole movie is he's literally making like vignettes. There's 8 vignettes in it, and they're all based off of dreams he's had, and they're all just individual. They're all fascinating. They're all metaphorical in certain ways, and some of them are just kind of weird, and some of them are more traditional. But just taking that kind of concept of dreams and putting that on
Yeah.
screen is
It's so interesting.
fascinating.
It's a new
Um,
Criterion, right?
It was
um,
a 4K. They
yeah,
upgraded
it
it.
just got
4K. Oh,
announced. The
okay.
4K
Yeah,
is
yeah,
coming out, but the Blu-ray's been out since 2016, I think,
yeah.
Oh,
somewhere
okay.
around there.
Okay.
That was put out by Warner Brothers on DVD back in the day. I think it also was produced by Warner Brothers too. Um, so I'm surprised that Criterion got their hands on it for a bit. I thought they would put that out themselves. Warner Archive does some of the best work that they've unearthed in a while. All of the Warner
Yeah.
Archive releases, regardless of the quality of the film, their work. We always talk about how great their work is, Steven.
Oh yeah, their
Um,
restorations are
I
amazing.
love I mean, Raquel, just to go back to a little classic, I love the Thin Man series with William Powell
Oh,
and Myrna Loy.
yes.
And
Yes.
I bring this up all the time. There was fear that Warner Archive was going to shut down because of, the turmoil that goes on with the business side of Warner Brothers and whatnot over the last several years. And I'm like, I just hope they just reach that 6th Thin Man movie on Blu-ray, then they can shut down. That's all I want. Just
Nah.
Or like the Forbidden Hollywood collection. I was hoping they would finish
my
number
goodness.
10
Oh,
before, you know.
Yeah.
I've got oh my, because they put out all of those on DVD, didn't they? Because I've got most of them here. The pre-code Forbidden Hollywood
Yes.
stuff. This
I
is the
have
one that
all
was
10.
yeah. You're lucky. I'm so jealous. Um, because yeah, they put these out in concert with TCM many years ago.
I have
Pre-code
those like original ones, and then they released them on their own, like the rest of them. So the
through Warner
packaging's a
Archive.
little different. Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
through Warner Archive, and that's
So I
how they
have the
continue that
TCM
run.
ones too.
And yeah, pre-code Hollywood is another story for another time, but those work are starting to make a bit of a resurgence on physical media, or resurgence, or just resurgence in general. And
Yeah.
then the silent era too. I mean, we could talk about all kinds of incredible stuff that's been going on. I actually just got the avant-garde silent Kino release, where it
Oh,
had
cool.
where it had a bunch of stuff in there, and now it just kind of like a collection of cavalcade of short films that was really great. And of course, I always bring it up, uh, the pioneers of women filmmakers, that set they
Oh,
put
I
out
have
years
that
ago.
one. That's a fantastic box set.
Talk about a history lesson in and of itself of women in film.
The college
Um,
course in a box set.
exactly.
Yeah.
And and going through all of that, you learned certain names like Dorothy Arzner and Lois Weber, and just so many different people who were having full on careers. And then the golden age of Hollywood started, and they disappeared. And you learn about how things progressed to a way more patriarchal world of Hollywood than
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah.
Um, so physical media is kind of giving us all of that without us
That's
even
This is
really
true.
knowing
We
it.
need it. We
Oh
need
yeah,
it.
we
We
Mm.
need to keep championing it so it keeps going.
well we're gonna keep doing that here. And Raquel, we appreciate you taking the time
Nice.
to chat with us.
Thank
Please tell
you.
everybody, yeah, no problem. And we should do it again. And maybe next time we bring you on to talk about a specific subject matter. And we can get nerdy about we can just talk about Robert Mitchum movies or something like that.
I would love
Uh,
that.
Yeah, that'd be great. So please tell everybody if they want to get in contact, or if they want to read some of your work, what's the best place?
So I have all of my like main work at raquelstecher.com. It's like my writing portfolio, but I also run a blog called Out of the Past blog.com. That's where I talk about classic movies, and then kelmovies.com is where I talk about new movies and new film festivals. And then I'm mostly on Twitter at Raquel Stecher while it's still around. So I love
Yeah.
talking to the classic film community on there.
Awesome. Well, Raquel, thank you again, and we'll see you around.
Thank you.
We're back. You like that? You like that? That scared the shit out of people, I think.
Took me off guard a little bit there.
I know. I think I scared you, and I think I scared the audience maybe just a tad with that fumble back in.
I know. Ironically, it reminded me of how there's that random moment in Citizen Kane that Orson Welles just put that bird screeching directly into the camera as it fades away from like transitioning from one scene to another. And I think Dick Cavett like asked him, "Why did you put that in there?" He said just to wake up the audience. I'm like, worked. It
Sure.
works every
Yeah.
time. It's so random. But yeah, that was Raquel Stecher. Just a great listen, great person to talk to about movies and all that kind of stuff. Just fascinated by her love of collecting books, and I know she has her like movie summer reading challenge that she does every year. That's coming on right around now. So check out her Twitter handle for all those details and her website and whatnot. Yeah, it was a fantastic interview. Enjoyed it.
Talking to her, yes, most definitely. So let's do it, Andrew. That thing we do, that's going to be my thing to say now. Let's do that
Nice.
thing we do. Talk Blu-ray announcements.
Shall we?
Pretty good, pretty decent, good handful of announcements. You can put a handful of these Blu-rays in your hand.
Yes, you can.
We can.
We are coming off the hot weekend of the halfway to Black Friday sale with Vinegar Syndrome, leading right into the first of the month of June 1st with their partner labels. But we'll get to that later, but that's going to be like the highlight, I think, of the show today. But we got some other things early on here. First up here, I do want to get into some MVD stuff because this was teased a little bit accidentally during our 100th episode.
I don't think it was accidental.
Extravaganza.
Well, maybe. I mean, Eric was a little bit under the influence, as they say, but he did kind of pop this in during our episode, and I didn't notice it really at first, and then he kind of said it, and then he popped it away, and then I was like,
and then he mentioned it later on.
Well, what happened was that Ryan from Disconnected was watching, and he said it was Ghoulies, and I was like, oh, it was Ghoulies, and that's how we figured it out. But
but it's literally like was a week or 2 weeks later, and so MVD is putting out 4K UHD releases of both Ghoulies and Ghoulies 2. And this is going to be, I think, their second and third 4K ventures. Or no, this actually may be their third and fourth because they're
we got Swamp Thing coming.
Yeah, Swamp Thing is coming, but what also just got released by MVD is Rain Man, which I hear looks absolutely fantastic. I know Eric was talking about it when he was doing our interview here of how great it looks, the movie looks, as he was going over it in preparation for the release. So yeah, they have those two coming, plus Ghoulies and Ghoulies 2. And for those of you who've seen Ghoulies and Ghoulies 2, you understand what type of movies they are? So we covered this when we talked about it, I think, for another company that was releasing both Ghoulies and Ghoulies 2. These often get compared to Gremlins, I would say.
Yeah.
Because they came out during the same decade, the 1980s, where you could just do stuff that other studios were doing at the same time and try to be competitive. And yeah, if I remember correctly, the first Ghoulies and the second Ghoulies are rather different in every way. The first Ghoulies like takes place at a mansion where these new owners take over this mansion, and the Ghoulies are kind of like living in this mansion, and they come like out of the woodworks to wreak havoc. Like they're like literally the box art for this is them coming out of a toilet, which they do at one point in the movie. It's like it's that level of like just chaotic 1980s humor with these Ghoulies. It's a lot of fun. Definitely a product of its time, and I feel like you just kind of have to go with it. And then Ghoulies 2, if I remember correctly, takes place at a carnival, which is already kind of a bit of a weird place in general. I haven't been to many carnivals in my life, but they don't have the best reputation when it comes to not being weird places. And Ghoulies 2, it's once again these Ghoulies are just kind of wreaking havoc at a carnival, but I think they particularly take up like refuge in one of the sideshow attractions and one of like a haunted house attraction or something like that. And then when people go in there, they kind of killed them. The place is
Kind
called
of.
Satan's Den.
Yeah.
That's the one thing with Ghoulies is that, like, they're way more menacing and way more violent than Gremlins. Gremlins don't get violent until they turn into until you feed them past midnight or you get them wet or something like that. That's when the weird things happen. Ghoulies just seem innately like doing evil stuff.
Yeah.
But yet both of these are getting, um, like I said, 4K releases in September, coming out September 12th. I think
I
for
don't
Ghoul
I don't think Goalies 2 is getting a 4K.
is Ghoulies 2 not getting a 4K? No,
No,
Ghoulies 2 is
just
not getting a 4K, just getting a regular
yeah.
Blu-ray release.
Yeah, he said
So
he
it doesn't
wanted
get
to.
love.
He said he wanted to, but I believe that he could only get a 2K restoration from,
Yeah, that's what I was
MGM.
just looking.
Yeah.
It would have been nice if Blu-ray.com had just put both of these in one press release and not separated them,
Well
so I don't have
mm,
to go back and forth like a crazy person.
well, they were
But
announced days apart, so
yeah, I guess that's
give
true.
him
But
that.
I give him that. But yeah, so Ghoulies is getting the 4K. It's a 2 disc edition with the 4K disc and the Blu-ray disc. Like Steven just said, Ghoulies has a 4K restoration. Looks like from a 16-bit scan from the original camera negative of the film, Dolby Vision. It's getting archival commentaries, 2 archival commentaries, and collectible mini posters. And then I think the Blu-ray is where you're getting more special features. Yes, you're getting a video introduction. You're getting stuff about editing. Yeah, there's a more extensive Blu-ray feature, more extensive features on the Blu-ray disc. Um, yeah, and then Ghoulies, I don't think is getting as extenuous a package.
No, it's pretty kinda bare bones. It happens a lot with sequels to franchises like this. You're just the interest to do any kind of extra features is not as it's not there as much, but you still got a few features here. It looks like
You do.
an interview, a making of, and an introduction by the screenwriter. So,
Yeah, no
uh,
commentaries though.
yeah,
Interesting. But you do get a collectible mini poster for MVD. And of course, if you listen to our interview with Eric or if you follow Eric on social media, his passion for these things is through the roof.
no, yeah,
So, chances are he poured everything he possibly could into these releases.
yes,
Um, Most definitely. But let's move over to, I guess, staying in the same vein, if you will, a little harder vein here. Is Terror Vision did an announcement this week of another film that they're coming out with, and this is a more recent film. By recent, I mean within the last 12 years. And this is a movie called Some Guy Who Kills People
I
that
love the
came out in
title.
2011.
Love the title.
Yes, I did get to see this because pretty sure it's streaming.
It's on
Oh,
Tubi.
good. Yeah, it's streaming on Tubi, and this movie stars some names you may be, um, not familiar with, but you may have seen these people pop up before. Specifically, the lead of this movie is Kevin Corrigan, and Kevin Corrigan is a he's a character actor. He's kind of a small actor. I know him more for a lot of TV work that he's done over the years, but he was first introduced to me as the uncle character in Grounded for Life. Do you remember that sitcom, Steven?
I remember it. I don't think I ever really watched it though.
Okay, I'm on the opposite spectrum where I actually own the whole series on DVD and have seen it many, many times because it played in syndication so much after it ended that I just ended up watching it so much.
Yeah.
But it was like one of those sitcoms from the early 2000s. I think it came out from 2001 to 2005, right in that window when I was like my teenage years, basically like 14 to 19 in that realm. And well, about 14 to 18 around that time. But he's been in a lot of things since. He had a small like role in The Departed as
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure he was Leonardo DiCaprio's cousin in that
Yes.
film.
Yep.
And he was doing like side deals with him, and then the Jack Nicholson character found out about it and shut that down real quick when it came to like small time drug dealing stuff. I remember him being in that, and he pops up in, like I said, a lot of television shows and things like that for like one episode's here, one episode's there. But he's been in a lot of things, but he is at the center of this film. And this is like a kind of a super indie film from, like I said, 2011. And he plays a character who just got out of a psychiatric hospital, and he they give you the backstory as to why he ended up there. Apparently, he was very much bullied as a teenager, and he kind of had a mental breakdown, and that's why he spent a lot of time in the psychiatric hospital. But he's now out now, back in his hometown, trying to rehabilitate his life, like working as a waiter at like a local ice cream shop, burger joint, and and what's happening is all of the kids that were tormenting him when he was younger are now ending up dead. And why is that? Is he the one doing it? Is somebody else doing it? What is going on? You've got a sheriff character who's hot on the trail trying to figure these things out. And it's a fun little indie film that I actually really liked. Some actors you may or may not know, Barry Bostwick plays the sheriff in this film. Barry Bostwick is another character actor who I'm pretty sure if you see him, you've probably seen him in a movie or a TV show or something over the years. The late, great Karen Black is in this film. This is one of
Mm.
her last films I think she was ever in before she passed away in 2013. Um, Also, you have Lucy Davis. Now, Lucy Davis, for a lot of you UK Office fans, was in that, and she was also in Wonder Woman, and she was also in the what's that show? The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina. She played Hilda Spellman, one of the aunts in that film.
Hmm.
Yeah, or in that show. So she's in this film, and you may notice some other guys. Ahmed Best is in this movie
Oh wow.
as the mayor. He's got like one or two scenes, and it's Ahmed Best. And those of you probably know him well as Jar Jar Binks from the Star
Yeah.
Wars prequel series. But this is a really good, darkly comedic, dark like horror film. Like the killings in this are pretty gruesome, and there's that cheap blood splatter and all that kind of stuff going on. But also at the core of this film is Kevin Corrigan's character has a daughter that he's never gotten to know, a young daughter who apparently was born while he was away in the mental hospital, and he's now reconnecting with her and trying to navigate those waters as well. So that's part of the story. I really ended up enjoying this film for what it is. So I would definitely give it a recommendation. I think I just wanted to check. There are going to be quite a few features on this release from TerrorVision. You got a new commentary. There's a making of. There's some stuff here with Kevin Corrigan. Um, I think these look like it says reflections on. I'm pretty sure these are just like interviews with people involved with the movie, like actors and stuff. So that's really cool. A lot of interviews here. Wow. And there's a short film too.
Yeah.
2 short films, I think.
Well, one's an introduction, a teaser, and
Oh,
then the other one's a short film.
well, I was looking for. It says search and rescue. It says short
Oh
film
yeah. Well,
slash teaser.
yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
and then raw behind the scenes footage. Cool.
All right. Yeah, I started to watch this one. I didn't end up finishing it, but it did.
Mm,
It was. I probably watched the first 20 minutes, and I was enjoying it. So, all
nice,
right.
nice.
Well, let's
Now
move
where are
on
we moving
over
to now?
to Vestron.
Sure, sure. We got another something in there that's in the horror vein. So Vestron, which is, I guess we could make the argument that it is indeed a boutique label. It's kind of the boutique label imprint of Lionsgate, and Lionsgate for me it kind of goes in both directions. Like sometimes they put out mainstream stuff, sometimes they put out more independent, like stuff you would see from a boutique label. So it counts. It counts.
Yeah.
But this is part of their Vestron series, which they've been putting out many titles of, and this is the film. Um, my what's it?
My best
My
friend is a vampire.
my best friend is a vampire, which is a 1980s kind of teenage coming of age comedy. Um, and it stars actually someone I know, Robert Sean Leonard. Robert Sean Leonard is was one of the young actors in Dead Poet Society. He was also on that show House MD for many years. I think he's also done a lot of like Broadway acting and theater acting and stuff like that. But he's in this film as a young man in his teenage years trying to figure out young teen angsty things, typically when it comes to dealing with young women and hormones and all that sexual stuff. But one day, while he's out doing his job, which apparently he works at a market delivering like groceries and stuff, he delivers to this old decrepit mansion that just so happens to have an incredibly attractive woman living there who is very pushy and kind of all over him. Well, come to find out, Steven, things are too good to be true, and
Mm,
she is a vampire,
damn it.
and she turns him, and he doesn't really know it because in the midst of him turning, two guys break in and kind of who are like vampire hunters, and that whole situation kind of goes awry. But he's turning into a vampire, and he's just trying to figure those things out, and it's kind of like a metaphor for like when you're a teenager trying to figure out life, and now he's a teenage vampire trying to figure out life as both, and
It's
it's a
rough.
very fun like thing going on. You got these two vampire hunters
So
that are after him slash after his friend. You've got this vampire um like mentor that comes into his life to try to teach him how to be a vampire. um
it's got a little bit of a Teen Wolf angle to it.
yeah, but with vampirism
Yeah.
versus being a werewolf, and it's very probably capitalizing on that idea,
Yeah.
very much so, because I'm pretty sure this came out after Teen Wolf, and yeah, I rather enjoyed it. It's a lot of fun, a lot of '80s fun teen angsty things going on in here. Thought Robert Sean Leonard was fun in the role and all that kind of stuff. His friend in the movie I think is really hilarious. He gets mistaken for a vampire, and these two vampire hunters just keep trying to go after him the whole time. But they're these two bumbling like idiot people that are just really bad at their job. Like they're trying to stalk the guy, and they have this giant like white rusted van that just sticks out like a sore thumb everywhere. So they get caught every single time, and they don't realize that. It's just so wacky at times. But yeah, I dug the movie, and
All right.
yeah, and I do like the Vestron series stuff.
Yeah, they got
I
some
don't
good
have a lot
titles.
of them,
Yeah,
but I would like more in my collection. If that makes
most
sense.
definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, is there anything in the way of special features? No, they didn't announce anything.
Yeah, they're a little bit I think usually their stuff doesn't have a ton of stuff. It's maybe kind of on that shout factory where they, sometimes you get something, sometimes you don't. Um but yeah.
Yeah, what I remember while watching this movie is that one of the vampire hunters who's known as the professor in this film, David Warner,
Yeah.
he was also the professor scientist guy in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2
Yeah.
Secret of the Ooze
Yeah.
from what was the name of that company? Was it TGI? Something like that.
TGI, yeah.
Yeah. So he's the one who's like in that movie as that actor. He actually just recently passed away like, a couple of years ago. Um, and yeah, I just remember that he popped up in this movie. He was playing the role way too seriously, so it came off even more comedic than I think was originally intended. But it is
That's
what
how
it
it
is.
works, man. That's how it
And
works,
it is
man.
how it works. So let's move on from Vestron to where do you want to go to now,
Well,
Steven? Want to go to Scream?
we got a
Oh,
one-off.
go run off. Okay.
Yeah, we got a one-off over at Via Vision. So this one was kind of interesting to see drop because it's kind of one of the movies I feel like I don't think it's had very much of a good Blu-ray release yet that I'm aware of, and that's the film Four Rooms that has a good cast, and I believe isn't it? It's directed by Quentin Tarantino, Robert Rodriguez. Let's see, Alexandre Rockwell, and Allison Anders.
Yes.
And I've heard about this movie and I've never seen it. I know it's
It
like
was
technically the first Quentin Tarantino directed thing.
it was on well actually it came out in 1995, so it's a little bit
Oh, is it?
after.
Okay, I thought it was the
It's a little
first.
bit after that, but yeah, it is a team up. Um, it's a bit of an anthological film, but it
Yeah,
all
yeah,
takes place in the same hotel in the same night. You know what I mean? It's one of those where literally it's things happening within four different stories, all set in the same place, and the connecting tissue of that is this. I think he's not a I guess a bellhop or something like that. Yeah, he is a bellhop because Tim Roth, and Tim Roth, he's literally credited as Ted the bellhop. So he is a
cool,
bellhop. So he goes around to each of these like individuals' rooms, and then just like weird, crazy stuff happens, and that's what interconnects all of these stories. And I think it all happens on New Year's Eve, if I remember correctly. Also, you got people in here like Antonio Banderas, Madonna is in this, Iona Sky, Lily Taylor, Jennifer Beals, Alicia Witt. I think Quentin Tarantino is in one of the segments as well as an
of
actor.
course he is.
Um, yeah. So it's a fun thing, but you're right, Steven. It does not have a Blu-ray here in the States yet. It's gotten a Blu-ray release in Germany, a couple actually, in France. Obviously, it's getting this one in Australia in July 5th. Actually, is when it's coming out. It's gotten one in Italy, Spain, South Korea, Japan, Portugal. I think that that may be Finland. Maybe I don't know, but it's gotten a release everywhere but here, and I don't know why. Um, but finally, we're getting access to something that's relatively close to Region A.
Well,
Um,
yeah, I mean, we talk about it all the time. Seems Australia stuff ends up being kind of region free. So, and this is coming from a new 4K restoration. So, um, that's going to be this is probably the best it's ever going to look. So,
yeah, and honestly, if you're kind of like me and you want to get everything from a specific director, Quentin Tarantino, Robert Rodriguez, I have sections for them in my collection. So obviously I have to make a choice which section does it go into now, but also, this is a way to get it on Blu-ray because it's been available on DVD for years.
yeah,
But this is a nice HD upgrade. Is there any? I want to see if there's anything in the way of special features on here, but I'm not sure if they've
there's like
announced
some
anything.
making of
Mm,
featurettes, and then there's like one thing that says 4 directors, 4 friends, 4 rooms featurette. So, not a ton, but I mean, a lot of times with these
I just kind of
films,
want, yeah,
you kind
I
of
just
want the
kind of want
movie.
the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want the movie in HD. It was streaming on Netflix for a long time, and
Yeah.
that's where I saw it. Um,
All right.
yeah, Tim Roth is great in the film. So now we can move on to Scream Factory
Let's do it.
slash South Factory slash we're
Uh,
getting another box set.
Factory,
Yeah,
the factory of movies. So yeah, we got a big slate here from them. Of course, starting out, we are getting a volume 2 of the Shaw Brothers classics line here, and it's got a ton of movies in it. We start with a film called A Lady of Steel. We got Brothers 5, The Crimson Charm, or yeah, Crimson Charm, The Shadow Whip, The Delightful Forest. That sounds delightful. The Devil's Mirror. I like that. Man of Iron, which is, the same as Iron Man, guys.
you would be
Um,
so when I googled this film or even put it up on IMDb or Letterboxd, Iron Man came up every single time.
it's stupid. Um, the Water Margin, which doesn't sound like a movie that should be in this set. The Bride from Hell, another movie that doesn't sound like it should be in this set. Heroes 2, The Flying Guillotine, and The Dragon Missile, which is a cool title. Ton of shit there. Did you watch any of this?
I did get to see 2 of these.
Okay.
So I did get to see, but I do want to say some other things as well. So for those of you interested, none of these films are crossing over with any of the films in the Shaw Brothers, the Shawscope sets from Arrow.
Yeah.
And I'm an idiot because I didn't realize this. The Shawscope sets from Arrow and these sets here are all Region A sets. Therefore, there would be no crossover anyway.
Yeah.
So I just realized that when I was doing my research for this episode. But some of these movies in this set specifically have been released previously on Blu-ray. So The Bride from Hell, The Flying Guillotine, and The Dragon Missile have all been released by 88 Films on Blu-ray within the last 5 years. I believe they all came out around 2017, somewhere around there. Those are all out of print now. I think so. Or they if they're not out of print, they were put out by 88 Films at that time. And Wellgo USA has also put out Blu-rays for The Brothers 5 and The Delightful Forest. So some of you may have these in your collections already. Some of you even may have these on DVD already, depending on how big martial arts fans you are. But I did want to make that distinction because it's not the first time we've seen these on Blu-ray. But once again, another massive set from Shout Factory when it comes to the Shaw Brothers. So this is coming out August 1st, I believe, which is going to be less than 2 months from the time that they released their Volume 1 set, which is coming up, I think, this week or next week. It's coming up very, very soon. So with I was just telling Steven before we were recording that with the 2 Shaw scope sets from Arrow and with these 2 sets from Shout Factory, there's like 49 Shaw Brothers films within 4 sets. Um, and that's not including what has been released individually by like 88 or Eureka or Arrow themselves. There's a lot of stuff coming out. There's just so much Shaw Brothers stuff now on Blu-ray more than ever.
Yeah.
But like I said, I did get to see 2 of these. I got to see, let me see what actually, the Shadow Whip, and I got to see the Dragon Missile,
Yes.
which is a pretty cool
I
title.
mean, it just brings up so many things in my mind that I want to know: is it a flying? Is it really a dragon, or is the dragon
No, it's
a
not.
metaphor for something else?
Yeah, temper your expectations about that. So the Dragon Missile is basically these weapons that are used in this film that are kind of like boomerang swords. They're these swords that are bent like boomerangs, and when you
Okay.
throw them, they come back to you. But there's a lot of decapitation and like body dismemberment in this movie, where this guy
Yes.
just like throws these things and they whip around like a boomerang, cut somebody's head off, and then comes back to him. And it's like this indefensible weapon where like you it's hard to dodge, you can't really deflect it, and they do it, but it's supposed to be this really amazing weapon. But the premise of this film, um so there's this guy whose name is Simujun, and he is this killer slash right hand man of this corrupt lord who has been afflicted with this boil on his back that's slowly poisoning him to death. And the only medicine for this is in some village that's like days away. So he sends Simojon, a bunch of other dudes to go get this medicine and bring it back. But what happens is on the way back, the medicine gets stolen and Simojon has to get it back. And he's like a straight up bad guy in this movie. Like he's like murdering like elderly men and women and whatever. He just like
That's
he has
nice.
nothing. He's just a bad guy. So you end up kind of rooting for these other people that are hunting him down, bent on revenge. One woman has her father killed. One guy has his mother killed by him, and they're like hunting him down and trying to prevent him from bringing this medicine back to this corrupt asshole of a lord. And that's the premise of the movie. And it's just kind of all that. The movie clocks in, I think, um, 82 minutes
Yeah. Well,
with
that's
credits, so it's relatively straightforward.
yes. I think a
It's
lot. That's
relative.
that's probably like how a lot of these movies are. They're all probably
Um,
pretty
you know what
straightforward.
I find? I find that the Shaw Brothers films that are shorter are typically not better, but they're smoother films. They're
Yeah.
straightforward action pieces, not complicated plots, none of that. And it's an easier watch, at least for me. Everybody obviously is different. The other film that I watched, The Shadow Whip, um, is a movie. Yeah, this was apparently a big hit. Um, Not a big. I think this is starring the same duo from Come Drink with Me, which is another Shaw Brothers film. Um, so this movie is about a woman who her main weapon is a whip. And what happens is when she was
I'm starting to see a
yeah,
thing here.
yeah. And when she was a little girl, I think her parents or her father was killed, and some guy was blamed for the murders when someone else had actually done it. So she was actually taken and raised by the person who was accused of killing her father, and apparently he's known as the Shadow Whip. So he taught her everything she knows, and she's like, I think she's trying to like avenge her father and also like clear his name, and she uses a whip to kick ass throughout the movie.
I mean, I would too if I was good with a whip. I'd probably be scared of hitting myself more than hitting somebody else.
Yeah, I remember so many people on Letterboxd commenting on how like she's able to defeat all these swordsmen with using a whip, and I'm just like, yeah, if you watch the movie, it looks like it works. It
It,
looks like it works.
yeah.
Um, yeah, so that is that movie. But this set, like we said, is 12 movies, I think on 12 discs. So there's no issue when it comes to doubling up. This is going to be a massive set. I've actually already seen pictures of the set itself, or at least pictures of the volume 1 set. It looks like they're all coming in clear cases, similar to I think they used for the Friday the 13th set. Didn't
I
that
was gonna
have
say,
similar set?
it looks very like it's gonna basically be that same set, you
I'm
know?
trying to find it on my shelf. I don't know where. Oh, there it is up there. So yeah, I have it on my top shelf now. So yeah, so those were all clear plastic cases, and those look
Yeah.
like the exact same dimensions, the exact same cases. Obviously smaller. I think they use like 2 discs per case, so as not to take up as much shelf space. But yeah, that's the massive set. But that's not all that they're putting out. They're putting out a
No.
couple of other things.
No, a few other things here. Let's see if this thing will let me scroll up. All right, so we got some 4K action.
Yes, we do.
We got a big one here. Nightbreed is getting a
Yeah, I'm super
4K.
excited for this.
Yeah, yeah. It of course it got a release, I believe, from Arrow. Um,
Yeah,
is it?
but it also had a Shout Factory release years ago, a
Did
Scream
it?
Factory release years ago. I think, when we first had Andrew Furtado on,
Yeah.
he worked at Shout Factory at the time, and he worked on that release.
Yes, he did. He worked on the restoration on
And
that.
yeah, and that
Yeah.
release had, a couple of different editions of it. Um, and yeah, that's been available for a little while.
Yeah, we're gonna have them same options here. We'll have the theatrical cut and we'll have the director's cut on here. So it's probably a lot of the same porting over of features, but we're getting new 4K restorations from the best surviving elements. So
Yeah, yeah, those
yeah,
original releases were from 2014. There's 2014 and there's 2017 had a more like super deluxe, like swanky set came out. But yeah, I didn't, pick this up all these years, so I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, it looks like a 4 disc edition. Like Steven said, theatrical cut, director's cut, are both on. It looks like the
well,
4K
there's one
theatrical.
4K and 3 Blu-rays. So
Yeah,
yeah,
what am I saying? Yeah, there's one. Yeah, and then the theatrical cut's the only one I think that's getting
the
the
4K
4K
treatment.
treatment.
Yeah,
The director's cuts is just on the Blu-ray. But you do get a lot of special features on both on these Blu-ray discs. So I'm looking forward to that. I like this film a lot.
yeah,
It's the film directed by Clive Barker, of course, is most famous for Hellraiser and amongst many other things. Steven, I don't know if you've seen this movie. Have you seen Nightbreed?
yeah. I've seen Nightbreed.
Okay, I was
Yeah,
just gonna
it's
say
a
because David
weird movie
Cronenberg's in the movie.
where guys kind of like going through some crazy. He's kind of going crazy. He gets involved in I think a string of murders or something like that, and then he gets. I know he goes to that place where there's all them weird people. It's a
Yeah,
lot
I
of
mean,
crazy
all of
crazy
these
creatures.
kind of, lack of a better term, I guess you could say, monstrous type creatures live in this like cemetery,
Yeah,
and to come to find out they're just persecuted just because they're monsters. You know what I mean? And they're not really harmful. So there's a whole message of that. Don't judge a book by its cover. All of those
yeah,
things are in here. Yeah, but I really dig this film a lot, and I'm stoked on when this is gonna get released in 4K. For those of you who are looking to buy Scream Factory Blu-rays from the past, just wait because every single one of them are getting 4K re-releases,
yeah,
and they're coming with the movies on Blu-ray already. So
yeah,
and and it's not like their Blu-rays ever really dropped in price to the point where buying the 4K would be obscene. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like most of the Scream Factory Blu-rays are still not pricey, but you would still have to pay a little bit for them, even though some of them came out 10 years ago, 9 years ago. Like it's been a while.
yeah.
But Nightbreed is like I said, one from like 2014. But moving on from
Well,
there, we've
I
got.
was gonna
Oh
say
no,
real quick. One thing I do remember about Nightbreed too is our man David Cronenberg acts in this movie.
yes,
Yeah,
yes, he does.
yeah,
He pops up randomly in some films as an actor.
yeah,
I don't know if acting was ever like something he wanted to do, or maybe people were just super fans of him. They were like, "Hey, would you mind being in this movie?" Um,
yeah. I don't know.
he doesn't do much. I'm gonna look it up right now. Actually, he's got 38 acting credits to his name on IMDb, which is absurd to me. Um, but he was in one of the Friday the 13th movies, and I think it's Jason X. It is Jason X. He's in the beginning and opening of Jason X,
Yeah,
which is
yeah.
better known as Jason Goes to Space. Um,
Yes.
Yeah, but he's in the opening of that, if anybody cares to know.
I love Cronenberg.
uh, y-
All right. Well,
Now moving
more what
on.
we got here. The other 4K, and this is if you're already excited about Nightbreed, you're going to be excited about the most 90s movie you will ever see, and that
Yeah,
is
yeah, yeah, yeah. It
Hackers.
is. I've seen this movie. I still actually, I get this movie and The Net confused
The Net, and
because they both have to do with computer hacking
then
in the
their
'90s.
their more sophisticated big brother, Swordfish.
Yeah, which came out later and
Yeah,
is also dated.
yeah. But
So
that's probably
yes,
the best movie out of the three, though. I mean, really. I mean,
I
Swordfish.
I would say yeah. If I was comparing just the three hackers, The Net,
Because
Swordfish,
I
then
tell
yeah.
you what, Hackers is really not good. It's you know it's one of them things where it's like when you're at the beginning of a new thing, which the internet was a new thing, really. It gets turned into like this like unbelievable like powerful thing at the time, which I don't think the internet was that powerful. Um, that I'm aware of, but maybe now it would make more sense. But
Oh
it's like,
yeah.
you
I
know,
mean, even when The Matrix came out in 1999, people don't remember that Neo, his thing was that he was a computer hacker.
yeah,
Remember at the beginning of the film when you get introduced to him, he's at his apartment and people are like buying like some computer hacking disc or something.
yeah,
And then that's when he goes to the
it,
nightclub, chases the white rabbit, all that
yeah.
stuff, and
But for
he's
some
kicking
reason, The
gear.
Matrix made it seem natural. In this movie, it just seems like a billboard advertisement for the internet,
Well,
and like,
that's like in the '90s where like like one of the most dangerous, I don't know, viruses or documents or things or whatever will be contained on a floppy disk, and
God.
like floppy disks were obsolete by what 2000 and something.
There was
You know what I
literally
mean?
a scene in this movie where the main character stands in front of a mirror and pulls out floppy disks like they're like playing cards or like he's like, "Well, you looking at me? You looking at me?" And he's like pulling out floppy disks, and I'm like, "Are you fucking kidding me?"
Do
Like
you
this,
remember floppy disks?
of
Like using
course.
them and stuff? Yeah.
I had him during elementary school. Yeah,
Oh yeah, yeah. In
yeah,
the '90s, that's where a lot of the computer games that you would put into your computers were from. Then CD-ROM obviously took over from floppy disks, and then now everything is pretty much digital. When it comes to those things, you don't even need disks. Most computers now don't even come with disk drives.
yeah. No,
Um,
you gotta get them. They're either external or you have to get them put in.
Yeah,
Yeah,
my MacBooks, which are over $2,000, still over $2,000, do not come with disk drives. You have to buy them separately. Um, yeah, my MacBook didn't even come with a USB port. You know,
yep.
and I got this in 2018. You know, and so even 5 years ago, disk drives and ports were kind of a no, kind of not a thing. But I think that's more of an Apple thing, though.
Well, it's
Like
yeah. The
yeah,
Apple's
that's
trying to
them
be
being
more.
dicks, you know?
They're trying to be more exclusive and only
Yeah,
use
they want you to
certain
buy
type.
their products specifically.
Yes.
I know with PCs and with, laptops and stuff like that, they come with all the ports you need. But sometimes I would say this, when it comes to technology, things are changing so rapidly, things become obsolete so rapidly as well. Things change very quickly. Even when it comes to things like ports and drives and all that kind of stuff. Um, Even when it comes to, this is a physical media podcast, a lot of physical media stuff comes and goes, you know what I mean? We talk about, 4K being the last, maybe last thing for when it comes to physical media, when it comes to movies. Um, we wouldn't have thought that 10 years ago. We didn't have that concept of 4K, so who knows what's going to happen. But um, Hackers is came out in 1995, just to put it into some type of context, which doesn't seem that long ago for a lot of us, but for many of us, it was. And for some people, a lot of you listening probably weren't even alive. But it stars Johnny Lee Miller, Angelina Jolie, Matthew Lillard's in the film, Jesse Bradford, Wendell Pierce is in this movie, um, and I mean, it's been so long since I've seen it. Do you remember the premise?
Yeah, I mean, he's like the main character, like got in trouble for like hacking into something really early when he was like a kid, and then he gets kind of like I guess put into juvenile hall for a good point, and he would his and part of his sentence is that he could not have access to a computer or like a cell phone, or what I guess they're equivalent to a cell phone, until he's 18.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
so that
I'm reading it right now. It
yeah,
says
so then he gets finally it jumps ahead, and he's gonna be going
he's
off to
18
college.
now.
He's gonna be going off to college, and he gets caught up in like the local hacker
Hacker. Yeah,
scene,
the hacker group.
this hacker scene. It's like chess club, but the hacker club. And Angelina Jolie's kind of one of the main players, and he's trying to get with the sexy Angelina Jolie, of course. And she's just she didn't give a fuck. And
Yeah. And there's of course there's a dangerous plot that they've got to foil. There's
yes,
a dangerous computer virus about to be unleashed, and they got to figure out how to stop it.
of course.
And they're being pursued by the Secret Service and the evil computer genius behind the virus as well.
Ah, yes.
Nice.
Yeah,
Nice.
and then later this movie would be upped by its brilliance in a movie called Black Hat. You're gonna get soon on 4K as well.
Oh yeah. Ironically, it's Chris Hemsworth's character has kind of the same stipulations in that, where he's not allowed to be on a computer
Yes. Yeah.
because he's such a hacker that he just can't be on it. But yeah, that would be a kind of a more modern, high stakes version of hackers, if you will. There was a lot of those like computer hacking, firewall hacking type movies in the 90s and 2000s. I guess just because like the internet was exploding and people didn't really understand, technology and all this kind of stuff. There was a huge, massive explosion of technology in the 90s and 2000s, and people were just trying to wrap their heads around it. So they would just make all these crazy over the top movies dealing with it, just making shit up,
Yeah.
just making things up, just for entertainment purposes. But taking it away now to something else completely different, going into kind of more maybe conspiracy theory type of thing. We've got a movie by Michael Crichton from the 70s known as Coma. And this is getting a special edition release. Um, and this movie stars Michael Douglas, but it's directed by Michael Crichton, who, of course, is probably more known as an author. He wrote Jurassic Park, but he did a lot of directing, typically in the 70s and 80s. Um, he directed Westworld,
Yeah.
the original Westworld, with that of course got turned into a television series in more modern times and stuff like that. But I remember Michael Crichton being more of an author, and he passed away in 2008. Wow, I didn't realize it was that long ago. Um, but yeah, I think he also wrote the script for Twister as well.
Masterpiece.
Oh yeah, I don't disagree with you. And I think he was one of the creators of ER actually.
Hmm.
I don't know if you knew that. Yeah,
Didn't
and
know
of
that
course, the movie Timeline was based off of his novel. Yeah, The 13th Warrior was based off of his novel. So yeah, he's got a lot of stuff. But anyway, I want to talk more about his directing because
Well,
it
Jurassic Park too, right?
was based off of his novel. Yeah. So he directed, so he directed Westworld, Coma, The Great Train Robbery, Looker, Runaway, Physical Evidence. He apparently has an uncredited, he's uncredited for doing the reshoots for The 13th Warrior, and then he directed the video game for the movie called Timeline. But Coma is an interesting movie dealing with kind of conspiracy theories or something like that. So basically, the movie centered around a young doctor who is not Michael Douglas. I thought Michael Douglas was going to be the main character in this film because, of course, big name by modern standards and all that kind of stuff. But Michael Douglas is in this film. Rip Torn is in this film. Richard Widmark is in this film. And this takes place at a hospital, and this young doctor who is actually in a relationship with the Michael Douglas character. They're both doctors, young doctors, and all that kind of stuff. And what is happening is a lot of patients are going in for kind of not rudimentary or simple procedures, but procedures where things typically don't go awry. And what is happening is they're all ending up in comas. There's something going on something wrong when it comes to the anesthesia that's being administered for these procedures, is that they don't wake up for them and they slip into comas. And this young doctor, portrayed by I'm probably gonna butcher her name. Genevieve Bujold, um, is is trying to figure out why that's the case. Why are so many people slipping into comas? And what she uncovers is that there's this local institute that's taking in all of these coma patients and all this kind of stuff. And she's trying to uncover what the sinister plot may be behind it and who is involved. And it's one of those types of kind of thriller 70s thriller types of movies. I don't want to give away anything else, but yeah, that's the main plot of that movie, and I thought it was rather entertaining. I kind of dug it. You know what I mean? For a kind of 70s anxiety, don't trust big corporations type of movie. I dig it. I dug it.
Cool.
So that's Coma. So
Awesome.
so we don't know what the special features are for that. We don't really know what the special features are for any of these. Shout Factory likes to keep that close to the chest for most of their announcements. But, um, Steven, do you remember the movie Little Nicky?
Uh, yes, I do. I got hit in the face with a shovel.
I saw this movie in the theater in the year 2000 when it came out, when I was probably 13 years old. And that is the type of humor that this movie has.
Yeah.
13-year-old humor.
Popeye's chicken is freaking awesome. I
You want to
mean,
hear something interesting? I saw this movie in the year 2000, and I very rarely had Popeye's chicken, and I've been eating it a lot more lately because more locations have opened up next to me. But anywho, that's just a random aside. Um, but yeah, I saw this movie back in 2000 because I was just a big fan of Adam Sandler.
oh,
You know,
he was huge, like
he was
super. I mean,
massive
he's
at the
still
time.
big, but he was like
Yeah, and
super
he
huge
still
at this
gets
time.
paid tons of money. Those Netflix movies, the Netflix deal he has with is he's rolling in cash. He just
Yeah.
massively, and he's someone who, people just kind of, the crap on his movies he's been making over the last little while, Grown Ups 2, and then the Netflix stuff that he's done, but he's still a big time name. People still recognize him. They recognize his name, and he was on the rise back in the 90s and 2000s. And this film Little Nicky was not remembered as one of his better films, but I'm telling you, as a 13-year-old kid, it was fun. It was
I
fun
can
as
tell you
heck.
right now, as a 34-year-old man now, I still love this movie.
I bet you it's still fun.
I still,
But this is
it's not been long. I've probably seen this movie within the last year.
well, it's
Yeah.
been on cable 100 million times over
Oh
the last
yeah.
20 years.
I think it was
But
on Netflix recently, and that's where I watched it again
oh,
recently.
that's probably what it is. But
Yeah.
this was the movie he did in between Big Daddy and Punch Drunk Love.
Wow, what a trio
Yeah,
right there.
He did Waterboy, Big Daddy, Punch Drunk Love. No, he did Waterboy, Big Daddy, Little Nicky, Punch Drunk Love, Mr. Deeds, and then
Damn,
8 Crazy Nights,
what a run.
and then Anger Management.
What a run.
And that takes you from like yeah, that takes you
That is a
from
fucking run. There ain't no misses there.
1999 to like 2002 or
There are no
2003.
misses there. I don't even look. Eight Crazy Nights is like kind of underrated animated, comedy.
Mm,
Um, but yeah, man, Little Nicky is it's stupid
stupid.
immature like
Yeah.
all his movies. But it's like the character is so kind of endearing. A lot of the brothers, that are trying to, of course, take over, start the end of the world, are all really fun. Of course, the
Yeah.
father's the devil is
Har
played by Harvey Keitel. Um,
Yeah, for those of you who don't know the premise of this movie, Adam Sandler plays the son of the devil.
one of the sons, one of them,
One of the sons of the
yeah.
devil, but he's like the black sheep of the family. He's not as evil as his brothers. He's not as evil as his dad. He's trying to prove himself, but he's really can't because he's not evil like them. So he gets kind of kicked up to earth. Um,
But what
yeah,
well,
what
what
happens is
happens is,
his
yeah, yeah,
brothers
yeah.
escape and they're wreaking havoc on Earth, and he's got to go get them.
Yeah, yeah, because they do something that stops the souls from coming into hell, when they leave. So they have to bring them back. If he doesn't bring them back, the souls can't get into hell. So then his father will die. So then little Nicky goes up there to try to bring him back by sucking him into like a little flask. And he gets aided by a talking dog.
Yeah,
and
but
some other crazy. Yeah,
the cast for this movie's unreal.
yeah,
Like we said, Adam Sandler, Patricia Arquette is the love interest in the film.
yeah.
Like we said, Harvey Keitel is his dad. His grandfather, who is Lucifer, is played by Rodney Dangerfield. Reese Ifans, the late Tiny Lister's in this film. Um, then there's of course people show up that are
Pop in, they're his regulars.
I was gonna say cameos by like Dana Carvey, Kevin Nealon, John Lovitz,
Oh yeah,
Michael
John Lovitz at the
McKean.
beginning is it's a running gag, but like at the beginning he's like peeping timing on this woman, falls out of the
Yeah,
tree, dies.
and then he
Yeah,
ends up in hell.
in
Rob
hell.
Schneider, of course.
Yeah,
Blake Clark is in the film. Quentin Tarantino is in this movie.
yeah. He
Once
plays a
again,
priest that's
yeah, isn't he
blind.
the priest like who's like just yelling through the streets that like the end times are
Yeah,
coming?
yeah, yeah. Dude, I love
This,
this
mo-
movie.
this movie's wild.
Yeah, and then
It's
there's a scene where
absurd.
they bring Hitler in to shove a pineapple up his ass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. That's one of the one of the more remembered scenes in the movie.
Ah,
It's
man.
a wild film. Ironically, we bring all this up, but I don't think this movie has not received a Blu-ray release here at all over the years. It has not. It actually hasn't released a Blu-ray release anywhere other than nowhere. This is it. It's getting released
Wow.
here in August and in Canada in August at the same time.
Well,
August 8th. That's the only Blu-ray release ever of this movie.
this is a must get, guys.
If you're an Adam Sandler fan, I guess if you're an Adam Sandler completist, I there's a lot of his stuff I still need to get just to have. Like I have Mr. Deeds, Punch Drunk Love. I think I have Waterboy. Billy Madison I have on DVD, but I wanted to upgrade that for years. Um, I even wish they would just put out the seasons of SNL with when he was on in the
Yeah.
90s. Um,
What
those
about
are some
Billy
great stuff.
Madison? You got Billy Madison?
I do. I have the DVD.
Happy
I've got to
Gilmore?
get the Blu.
Happy Gilmore?
Happy Gilmore, I don't think I own at all, but I've seen it so
Wow.
many times because they play these on cable ridiculous
Oh
amounts of
yeah.
times.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Happy Gilmore at one point was on every single weekend on like TBS.
Price is wrong, Bob.
Still cool. That I was watching golf earlier today. You tell me
Oh
that Happy Gilmore
God,
wasn't running through my
dude!
head.
I swear to God, every time I talk to you more, you're more of an old person than I.
Well, the thing is, I was well. The thing is, my dad was watching golf, and I was just sitting there
That's what they all
eating.
say.
Like I wouldn't watch it by myself. That's one sport that I just wouldn't watch by
Yeah.
myself. Like by myself.
And Grizzly Adams has a beard.
I'll
Grizzly
tell you,
Adams did have a beard.
yeah, he did have a beard. That's another. Isn't that a reference?
That's a reference from Happy Gilmore. Yeah.
Yes, it is. I remember in that movie where he gets a promotional deal with Subway.
Yeah.
Back in the 90s, because back in the 90s, kind of when Subway first came on the map, really. And
And
I
then
remember being
he
in
hits
that
the
movie.
sandwich. He drives
Oh
the
my
sandwich.
goodness! Do you remember that when he goes to the retirement home and that woman keeps trying to escape? She jumps on his car and he dumps the Subway on her.
Take it all.
Yeah.
Just leave us alone.
Yeah,
I
he's
can
trying to
quote
fix
these.
the microwave. He's trying to fix the air conditioner. It falls off the window and falls on top of her.
I think I killed that Miss
Ridiculous.
Misty lady.
Freaking Ben Stiller as a cameo, as that evil man.
Yeah,
who
he comes
runs
in. He's
the
like,
place.
she's like, I need a warm glass of milk. Help put me to sleep. Well, I can get you a warm glass of shut the hell up.
Yeah,
You will go to
he-
sleep, or I will put you to sleep.
yeah, and he's running the place as if it's like a sweatshop, and he's the
Yeah.
women like sewing
My
clothes and
fingers
stuff.
hurt.
Yeah.
Oh well, your back's gonna hurt because you just pulled lawn duty. Anybody else's fingers hurt? Yeah, I could quote these whole movies. I've
Yeah,
seen
I
them
know
so many
because
times.
we grew up watching
Dude,
these
I don't-
movies incessantly.
countless amount of times.
Yeah, it was. I'll tell you, there's a heavy dose of Jim Carrey
Jim
and
Carrey
Adam
and Adam
Sandler.
Sandler. Yep, most
Growing
definitely.
up.
And then one
And-
more quote from before we move on from Happy Gilmore. I eat pieces of shit for like you for breakfast. You eat pieces of shit for breakfast?
I still think about that quote to this day. What a
Shooter
what a great quote.
McGavin's one of the great
Shooter McGavin.
villains. One of the great villains.
So, but when it comes back to this here, I think there's only one more release here, and that is Assault on Hill 400,
Jesus,
which looks like
that's a big hill.
World War II film. Yes.
Okay.
This Yeah, description: on November 14th, 1944, the 2nd Ranger Battalion is tasked with laying siege to the German town of Bergstein in its highly prized strategic position, Hill 400. Providing the Third Reich with high ground for its punching artillery units, the hill must be taken at all costs. This epic and riveting World War II action stars William Baldwin, Michael Madsen, and Eric Roberts.
Oh, that's a pretty good cast.
Yeah, and there's nothing really here in terms of special features, unfortunately, and I and that's it. Wow, it doesn't even
I mean,
say who.
it's not the top Baldwin brother, but we got Michael Baxton and
Well, you know
Eric
what this
Roberts.
this is? This movie came out in 2022. This
Wow.
is kind of like, I don't know if is direct to home video still a thing?
Oh, of course it is.
I'm just trying to see who the director is. They don't even list like who the director is or anything like that on here. Christopher Ray, I don't know who that is.
Huh. Sounds like too plain to be a real person. Maybe it's a pseudonym. Uh,
Oh, you think it's, yeah, oh.
it's not the real director's name. I don't know. I'm just making shit up.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, why not? It's
Yeah. Don't.
interesting filmography here. He has directed 24 things before. Um, a lot of looks like a lot of action stuff. Yeah, a lot of
Okay.
action stuff. Kind of looks like B or C movie action stuff. And like he directed Mega Shark vs.
Ah, yes.
Crocosaurus, and he directed Megaconda and
Ah,
Reptosaurus.
wow. That's classical classics there.
Mega Shark vs. Colossus.
So
Like,
he's
you're
one of
getting a
them guys that
theme here.
does the crazy Sharknado type of stuff.
Yeah, that's what it looks like. A lot of those B and C like television movies and direct to video stuff. Um, yeah, I
Okay.
just want to check that. But now we move on to, I think, Vinegar Syndrome, right?
Well, let's run through the Kino real fast.
Oh yeah, I almost forgot about our old pals Kino. They've been quiet this week, a little quiet,
Yeah, a little
a
bit.
little too quiet.
A few things we'll run through. Of course, this thing we can't really review very well, but if you're a big fan of the series Monk, you're going to get the first season. Um, all 13 episodes of the first season are going to be coming out on newly restored in 4K. This was a show I definitely watched when it came out, but honestly, I haven't watched it in so long, I barely remember it. And but I'll be excited because I mean, if they're going to put out all the seasons of this, I might get these over time. You a fan of Monk?
I actually never saw the show, but I remember
Oh,
when it was on, because I believe it was on USA, and that was when
yeah.
USA was like big into making their own shows.
Yeah,
Like,
it was like it was like the AMC of its time. Like they were making
I
like a
guess
lot of hit shit. Not in the
AMC had
sense of
better shows. Yeah,
not in the sense of like the quality necessarily, but like that they were kind of a top network that was getting a lot of popular shows. They had that show, they had
yeah.
Psyched, they had
Burn Notice, I
Burn
think
Notice,
was another one.
Suits came a little later.
Suits, White Collar, I
White
think.
Collar,
Of
yeah.
course, it was always USA and FX were making shows around the same time. It was in that era of the 2000s where, um, like extended cable,
Yeah.
like I was just saying, like your AMC's and all that stuff was starting to make their own programming. It was popping. People were loving it. Like I always bring up FX when it comes to, like Sons of Anarchy, when it comes to Shield, when it comes to what's the Dennis Leary firefighter show? Is
Oh,
that Rain?
shit. I should know this because I love that show.
Oh boy,
Uh,
oh boy.
damn. Oh, damn.
I
Why
could
do
look
I
it up for you. I mean, but it's yeah, there was those shows, and then of course USA was doing their own thing. And then Monk was part of it. I've always been a big fan of Tony Shalhoub.
Yeah, I
Um
love Tony
it,
Shalhoub.
it was called Rescue Me, by the way.
Rescue Me, yeah. He's in that marvelous Miss Maisel
Yeah,
show.
which just wrapped up, and he was amazing in it. I thought
Yeah,
he was over the top, ridiculously funny, playing this, I don't even know how to say this,
he's kind of like a
hypochondriac father.
yeah. I mean, he's like a he's almost like a hipster father. Like he's like wants
How
to
do you
be he wants to be known for his intelligence, but he's also like I feel like
He's
kind
so
of
manic.
yeah
He was so
yeah. He
manic
does
and just, like, over the top, like, I mean, this is not giving anything away, but he just like he would obsess over things that no one would really obsess over. Kind of reminds me a lot of myself, but just constantly overthinking everything to the absolute fullest extent.
Here it is, guys. Episode 102. Andrew says that he is Tony Shalhoub.
Yes, I'm Tony Shalhoub, but he plays the marvelous Mrs. Maisel's father in that show, which actually just had its series finale. I thought it wrapped up
He,
very,
yeah,
very well.
he's kind of a character actor that's kind of been throughout movies and TV for a while. He plays that one funny character in Men in Black that gets his head shot off all the time.
Oh yeah, Jeeves.
Jeeves, yeah,
Yeah, he owns that pawn shop where he gets his
yeah,
head blown off and then it grows back.
yeah.
But he was in that. But he was, of course, I'm pretty sure he was in the sitcom Wings
Oh.
from the 90s. I remember watching that when I was a kid, and that was another one that had a great cast in it as well. He was in that, but he's been in movies as well. He's
Yeah,
been
yeah.
in so much work. I know that the show Wings, I think, got a complete series release from Mill Creek. I think it was one of the Mill Creek releases. Yeah, so he's been around for a very long time, and just a great actor. And I actually been wanting to watch the show Monk, and I'm a big fan of buying shows on Blu-ray anyway.
I know you are.
So this works hand in hand for me. I'll tell you, I'm excited because what does this lead to? You know what I mean? We're getting, Universal, I think, is putting out Columbo on Blu-ray. I just heard some news on that today, where they're going to be putting out two sets for that show, a classic era and a later era of that show. Apparently, it's going to have all kind of new special features that they're making for it as well. It's supposed to come out, I think, around late summer and then in fall time, and then maybe later on in the year, and then maybe into next year for the second set. So I'm excited for that. I'm really excited for this. I know a lot of people are probably a little upset that it's not a complete series set, and they're going to have to buy one after the other, but just because everyone is so impatient when it comes to these things. Also, we've been burned a lot in the past when it comes to shows getting put on DVD and then never finishing. So that's a big
Yeah.
problem.
I don't, the way the impression I get from the guys at Kino that it's that I don't think that that's going to happen. I think if they start something, they're going to finish it. But this is going to be all 13 episodes on 3 discs, so you're getting, roughly probably 4 a disc, and then maybe one's got 5 on it. So yeah, that's
Yeah, there's a good amount of special features here as well.
yeah. It's
So
they're
that
not all very long though. They're all pretty
no,
short,
no, no.
but yeah, you got to
Yeah,
get them
so
out.
this has already been released on DVD in many forms, individual seasons, complete series sets.
Yeah.
So chances are, if you're a fan of this, you already own it. But if you want it in Blu-ray, it's available, and it's getting newly restored in 4K is significant.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Because they're not just plunking over some old standard def masters onto a Blu-ray disc and upgrading it. They're actually going back and doing it, which is the main reason why a lot of the shows don't get Blu-ray releases, the old catalog shows. This show's not even that old. It's from 2002. It's 20 years old. Is because companies don't want to pay to go back and remaster these in HD, let alone in 4K.
Yeah.
So they had to shell out. Someone had to shell out some money somewhere.
Yeah.
So that's coming August 8th, if anyone's interested. And then next we've got another Burt Reynolds film. It's either Burt Reynolds or Charles Bronson. Kino's got you covered.
Yep.
And this is the movie Malone. I've
Bugsy Malone.
I've never seen this, but I know that this was released on Blu-ray like several times. Now maybe at least once, because I remember seeing the Blu-ray of this like when I was out shopping for stuff. So yeah, there was a Blu-ray that came out in 2015 actually. Goodness gracious, by Kino Lorber. So this is a re-release of their own disc, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, that disc is now out of print. So this will be the main one right now. And yeah, Malone came out in 1987. It's getting a new commentary by 2 film historians, and the movie looks like Burt Reynolds kicking some serious ass. That would be what I think it is. Of course, when I gotta scroll down. So, an ex-CIA hitman running from his past finds just how difficult it is to retire when he runs across a small town controlled by mercenaries and a family that's resisting their control. Damn it. So once you think you're out, they pull you back in.
I hate that when they do that.
Mm-mm-mm. When you think you're retired, and then something comes along and you gotta brush up on your old kick-ass assassin skills, I guess.
Well, I have a hard time, honestly. Burt Reynolds always seems a little stiff to me, so I don't know if he's like really kicking ass. Yeah, it might be a stunt man. But
Oh, I mean, it most definitely is a stuntman.
but all right. Well, more Burt Reynolds. We move on up to a film we got here from 1942, Strangers in the House. I never like having strangers in the house. One
Hell,
thing
I
that
don't even like having people I know in the house.
yeah, I know, right? It's just in the way.
Just go away.
One interesting thing about this one, of course, it is written by Henry George Clouseau.
Nice.
So that's
A French Hitchcock, as they say.
yeah, and so I'm this that automatically draws me in here because I love his work. Wages of Fear, Diabolique, of course. Yeah, yeah. Anything about this one? Were you able
I'm
to?
trying to actually find. Yeah, I'm trying to actually find it, but when I type in "strangers in the house" on IMDb, it doesn't show up because
Uh,
I could just look up.
you had to look up the French name,
Oh,
Les Incontes des. Okay, you know me.
you're doing well. You're doing
Not
well.
really. Um, but
I think, ironically, as I think we've talked about this release before, and we're
okay,
just now getting details on it.
gotcha.
Um, yeah. So let's see. What year did this movie come out?
1942.
1942. All right, let me scroll down. Scrolling, scrolling,
But it's
scrolling.
adapted, precisely gifted Henry George Clouseau um, from the novel by eminent crime author George Simeon. Um, Strangers in the House is a stunning psychological murder mystery with sardonic uh, Gaelic overtones. Legendary actor Raymond. Who's that? Legendary actor Ray Moon.
Yeah,
Who's yeah,
Rameau.
Ramu? Who's Ramu?
He was a famous French actor.
Okay, well that helps me a lot.
Yeah,
Is
He was in The Baker's Wife.
oh
That
I have
doesn't really
no
help.
I've seen that. Yeah, I've
I
seen
think
the
because that's a
Baker's.
Criterion film.
Yeah, I've seen Baker's Wife. Um, is brilliant as the alcoholic attorney Hector Lazat, disillusioned with his life and living with his daughter Nicole in a vast, shabby mansion. One night, they hear gunshots echoing from upstairs and discover a dead man lying on an old bed in the attic. The ghastly scene sets the stage for a sharp and scathing film noir written by.
Scathing.
What did I say?
You said scathing. But
Oh,
I was just emphasizing the scathing
oh!
part.
I thought I said something wrong. God
No,
damn it!
no,
You
no.
stopped me. I was in the. I was
You're in
like,
the
I
mood.
was going, man. Scathing film noir written by Europe's most acclaimed craftsman of suspense and directed by the great Henry Decor. All right,
Nice.
I'm done. So anything
Sounds
else?
No, it sounds damn good. It's getting a 2K restoration by Gaumont. It's got a new audio commentary here by historians Howard S. Berger and Nathaniel Thompson, who I think do no, but Nathaniel Thompson does do the audio commentary on Malone, so
Yeah.
doing double duty there. But yeah, Strangers in the House or Les Inconnus dans la Maison. It's really I definitely interested in this. This is gonna be kind of one that I blind buy at one of their sales. I just have that feeling.
Mm, mm.
Like I'm gonna be searching their pages and I'm gonna be like, oh, what's good? I need that free shipping. So I'm
Yes,
like, I need to add one more title to my list here,
this might
and
be it.
that'll probably be one of them
Yep.
because it's got that Clouseau's name attached to it.
All right. Well, a movie we've talked about in the past. They were previously put out by Imprint. We have 1988's The Beast, aka The Beast of War. Um, I remember this being pretty interesting. I think it was because it was about a war that I wasn't really aware of, and just the depiction of it was pretty brutal. I remember the beginning scene, somebody being killed under a tank, getting
Yeah,
pulled
they
under.
run over a guy.
Yeah, it's pretty rough. But I think I did end up getting that imprint release, so
Oh, okay.
I believe so.
Yeah, I think
So
that imprint release has a special feature on it. That's like quite an extensive making of
yeah,
documentary. And
yeah. I don't. This don't really have. It doesn't look like this. I mean, we don't know. It says coming soon, so we don't. It might have more details later. Um, but directed by Kevin Reynolds, which is the director of Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, which
Yes, he did.
we talked about with Ryan on our our recent unwatched pile. He's a big fan of that movie.
Yeah, Kevin Reynolds also directed, I think, Waterworld as well,
I
which I think
think.
also has a Blu-ray release. Actually, I think it doesn't have a 4K release now
Oh,
from Arrow.
Waterworld's about to come out in 4K this month. Yeah.
Yeah, Waterworld's about to come out in 4K. Yeah, Kevin Reynolds directed Waterworld, Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. He directed The Count of Monte Cristo from 2002. Do you remember that movie?
Yeah, it's
This was
like
one
what
of the
is the
first
man in
DVDs I
it's
ever
a
bought.
different version of the Man in the Iron Mask, right?
Oh, no,
Or
no.
is that something else?
That's something completely different.
Okay. I thought it was a
So
similar story.
So, a young man falsely imprisoned by his jealous friend escapes and uses a hidden treasure to exact his revenge. Not quite Man in the Iron Mask,
No,
but
no.
this was actually one of the first DVDs I ever bought. This and Gladiator, and I still have this on DVD. The same DVD. It stars Jim Caviezel, Guy Pearce is in it. Um, I think Louis Guzman shows up in this movie at one point. A very, very young Henry Cavill is in this movie. Um, yeah, I always thought it was super underrated. Super underrated. And it's directed by Kevin Reynolds. It's based on the Alexander Dumas
Yeah.
novel. Who wrote The Man in the Iron Mask? He wrote Three Musketeers. So there's that connection there. But yeah, so the Beast is or the Beast of War, depending on where you are, is the movie that's it's a Soviet. It's a Soviet tank and its warring crew becomes separated from their patrol and lost in an Afghan valley with a group of vengeance-seeking rebels on their tracks. So I think it takes place during that Afghan Russian war in the 80s, and you follow this Russian tank group and its commander, who's complete asshole in this film.
Yeah, yeah.
The good guys are really pieces of shit in this movie.
Yeah. I
um,
mean, yeah, I mean, it's one of the movies where it's like there's no rooting for anything. It's a pretty drab movie.
yeah, Jason Patrick's in the film. Stephen Bauer plays like one of the leaders of like a Middle Eastern military group, and I remember making this. I remember saying this when we covered it when Imprint announced this. Stephen Bauer is not from the Middle East. So it
True.
really doesn't make any sense why he plays this
I
character,
don't think
but
there's a lot
that
of
is the thing.
Stevens in the Middle East.
Yeah, considering his real name is Esteban Ernesto Escavaria Sampson, he's Cuban.
Yeah.
He of course Stephen Bauer is of course most well known for being in Scarface as um, Al Pacino's Tony Montana's like best friend in that film. And he was of course also in Breaking Bad, and his character was reprised in Better Call Saul as well for a little bit. So yeah, so
Okay.
that's Stephen Bauer. That's The Beast of War or The Beast came out in 1988, directed by Kevin Reynolds. We don't know any details about it. We don't. We don't know if it's going to carry over the same special features as the one from Imprint. But we do have one more Imprint carryover. But this is getting a 4K UHD upgrade, and that is North Dallas 40, which came out in 1979, starring Nick Nolte. This is a movie that I think we covered when it was announced by that Imprint was putting it out, and this is a football film from the 70s where Nick Nolte is, I think he's a wide receiver playing for the Dallas Cowboys, and it's all about kind of trying to tell the true story of what it's like to play in the NFL.
Mm.
All this kind of stuff, the warts and all story, if you will.
Yeah.
And it, yeah, it's fine. You know what I mean? It's if you like football films, if you like sports movies, then this movie you've probably seen before. It's yeah, it's fine. Nick Nolte is great in the movie.
Uh, I don't think I've seen this. I don't really have interest in this.
I'll be honest, it's a satire of American professional football in which a veteran pass catcher, Nick Nolte, individuality and refusal to become part of the team family are bitterly resented by his disciplinary coaches. That's generally the premise of the film, but it's more about him trying to figure out, if he wants to, how much he's got left in the tank to play, and and he doesn't quite fit into, you know, the changing game and all this kind of stuff. It's fine. Um, it, yeah, I don't have much else to say about it because it's kind of just a fine movie for me. Um, it's directed by Ted Kochev. Ted Kochev did direct First Blood and Weekend at Bernie's. Couldn't pick
Huh.
2 different films. 2
Cool.
more different films than that. Um, yeah. I really like Weekend at Bernie's. How do you feel about that
Oh,
film,
I
Steven?
love Weekend in Bernie's. Yeah, I mean it's one of them kind of old, it's kind of old school for its time. It's kind of almost like a slapstick. It's almost like a Three Stooges kind of thing. Um,
I was just
for
looking
the
on my
in the
se
80s.
I was looking on my shelf to see if I have Weekend at Bernie's, but I don't think I do. And I think I've always wanted it just to have it, um, because it's just, it's a fun, comedy
They
from
made a
the
sequel
80s.
too, man.
They made a sequel, and the sequel actually does not have a Blu-ray release at all, unfortunately. I guess the sequel is not much love, but that thing is ironically is it's another one of those things where I think I saw the sequel before I saw the first one. And the sequel is different because in the sequel, uh, his how do I say this without sounding so morbid? His corpse starts dancing to music.
Yeah.
But in the first film, that's not the case. So apparently, between the first and second film, uh, Bernie's
You
decided
could say
to
the
catch the
second
rhythm.
film's you could say the second film's like a zombie movie. He's like coming back to life.
they're they're both kind of zombie movies if you
I
think
guess
about it.
yeah.
I mean, the first one, the whole concept of Weekend at Bernie's is so morbidly grotesque. It's baffling, baffling. Yeah, it's like taking the concept of Swiss Army Man, but removing any of the thematic depth of that movie, and all you have is 2 people, like, playing around with a corpse.
Yeah, yeah, it's
That's
nothing
how
wrong with that.
unbelievable.
Nothing wrong with that at all.
Oh, man. Weekend at Bernie's.
Only serial killers do that.
Yeah, if you could almost write it. I'm pretty sure people have cut this and mashed this together as a make Weekend at Bernie's a horror movie where
Yeah.
it's like the manipulation of a corpse for your own gain. For those of you who haven't seen Weekend at Bernie's, Bernie is a super rich dude who invites these kind of 2 like kind of bumbling, goofy guys to come to his like beach house for the weekend or something. And it turns out that before they get there, Bernie's been assassinated. And but the thing is, the guys still like want to have a rip roaring fun time at this like beach mansion. So they decide to pretend that Bernie is still alive, and they kind of just like bring him to parties and prop him up at the beach and stuff like that, just so that they can look cool. It's
Yeah.
really crazy when you think about it, but it's a comedy. It's the 80s, and you could get
Yeah.
away with stuff like that back then.
Kind of, yeah.
But now we can move on. I think we can move on from Kino to the meat in our sandwich here. The
Okay.
the main course, and that is the Vinegar Syndrome partner label releases for the month of June. They just had their sales, so they kind of got rid of all of their Vinegar Syndrome stuff proper, and now we've got the partner stuff left over for the month. And we've got a slate of some stuff here, some good stuff. We think we have about what was it, 13 releases? I think.
That sounds like it. I guess. I don't know. I didn't count.
Okay.
But what we got here is from Culture Shock releasing. We have a double feature of Virgin High and then a film called Hot Under the Collar. Next, from Crocodile, we have Prague Nights. From Umbrella Entertainment, we have Shame. From Yellow Veil Pictures, we have How to Be Loved. From Dark Star Pictures, we have The Queen of Hollywood Boulevard. From Saturn Core Audio Video, we have At Dawn They Sleep. From Connie, we have Spacked Out. Spacked Out. From Decalogue, we have the Adam Rifkin Film Festival, which includes a bunch of short films, I believe. Effects, which is one I think's a re-release that's being put out in 4K. And then from Alternate Innocence, we have Alternate Innocence Volume 2, which is another collection of short films. From Utopia Distribution, we have Therapy Dogs. From Factory 25, we have Funny, haha. And then ETR Media, Graveyard Alive. That's it.
Right on. Now we got to go through some stuff here. Where do
Do
we
we?
want to tackle first?
Oh God. Let's not go. Let's go through what we haven't seen.
Oh, that's a twist.
I know. Just to get them out of the way.
Okay, so what I did not get to see, and to be honest, I don't even know if you can find these movies. The Decalogue release of the Adam Rifkin Film Festival,
Yeah.
where it's like all of his short films that he made when he was essentially a kid.
Yeah.
All the stuff he made from like 1975 to 1987, all the way up until his first feature, I think. None of those films you can really see. Um, because I tried looking for some of them, and they're not even like listed on his IMDb page. That's how like home video esque types of movies that these are. And there's a whole bunch of them here. Trying to count them up.
Well, I know. I can tell you this. He's always he's going to be an interest for me because he directed the movie Detroit Rock City. That's enough for me to be interested in this set. So, but looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9,
Oh, you
10,
made me
11,
break my
12, 13,
count.
14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21 films.
Yeah, about that. So it's a significant amount. They're all short films. I don't know how long or how short each of them are, but there's some additional stuff here. There's interviews with obviously Adam Rifkin, and it looks like his sister and a bunch of actors in here. I think Vinegar Syndrome recently released his film. What's that? The Invisible Murderer? Not murderer. Hold on, let me look. I think it was his first film. We talked about it when it came out or when it was released. I know Adam Rifkin. Oh, from before. I remember he did a lot of kind of indie stuff before, but his first film, I've actually never seen Detroit Rock City, by the way.
Oh my
Um,
God.
I know, I've never seen it. So, okay, so his first film was Never on Tuesday, Tale of Two Sisters was his second. His third film was the one that they released, The Invisible Maniac. Vinegar Syndrome put that out properly, I believe. But I remember he did the film Look, and then there was a Look TV series as follow-up TV series as well for 11 episodes. I don't think it went past more than one season. It was kind of a one concept thing anyways. But it's yeah, so and then of course he directed this movie. I bring this up sometimes called The Last Movie Star. It was one of the last movies that Burt Reynolds ever did. And it's a really meta film, meta indie film, where the premise of it is an aging former movie star is forced to face the reality that his glory days are behind him. And this was towards the literal end of Burt Reynolds' life. So it's a super meta kind of, look at him right before he passed. But yeah, that's what interests me about this set here is that it's all the stuff from Adam Rifkin that we haven't gotten to see. So
Awesome.
yeah,
Yeah.
That's a cool set. That's being put out by Decalogue. Something else I didn't get to see. Oh man, Graveyard Alive. I did not get to see.
Yeah.
Did you read the premise for this?
No, but I will now. The story follows Patsy, a shy, dreamy nurse who, after being bitten by a zombie, becomes a flesh-eating sex kitten. With her newfound powers, she tries to win back her old flame, the savvy and handsome Dr. Doc. From it's hard to say this stuff without laughing. From Goody, a bitchy. Oh shit. Let me start over here. The savvy Dr. Doc from Goody, a bitchy young nurse. As the film progresses, Patsy must also learn to deal with her new affliction and to live her life no longer in her romance dream world, but in a harsher yet ultimately more satisfying reality. Wow. Wow.
Yeah, that was a tough one for you.
It was tough not because I couldn't read it. It was tough because it was some of the most hilarious dialogue I've ever seen. Yeah. Um, okay. Well, that's
Sounds like an interesting take on the whole zombie thing.
well, what's weird about this is I believe most of ETR stuff has been like these like music docs they've been doing a lot of musical stuff, right? Like a lot of music stuff.
Yeah.
And this
Yeah,
is
like,
kind of a
ETR
departure of
Media
that.
doesn't yeah, ETR Media typically doesn't do, like,
Narratives.
not only narratives, but, like, horror stuff, really. It
Yeah.
is mostly, um, it is mostly documentary stuff, like, they did the documentary on GoldenEye, they did the documentary about, the game Clue, they did the video store one from last month, they I Think We're Alone Now,
Yeah.
we cover that very
That was
extensively, we
good.
even
That's
had the
good.
director on, I Think We're Alone Now.
Yeah. Sean
So
Donnelly. Yep.
Sean Donnelly, yeah, and a lot of the other stuff is Low Sound Desert, which was another music documentary. Um, Maybe they're branching out.
Yeah. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see where this goes. But that sounds cool. I love it sounds like it'll be a hoot. So maybe
Ooh, a hoot, you say?
yes, I do.
It does sound interesting. What else did I not get to see? I didn't get to see Therapy Dogs, but I want to see this so badly. I hate
Whoa,
myself
whoa,
more
whoa,
than
whoa.
anything.
I almost heard a F. There was almost
Oh, I
something.
did. Because I mean, I wanted to see this. It's a recent. I think it's a I couldn't quite tell if it was a documentary or if it was a narrative film, but I think it's a documentary. Um, um, yeah, it chronicled the last year of high school as two friends set out to make the ultimate senior video. Sounds interesting. Sounds just cool, experimental. Um, it is right now only really available to rent. I think through Apple, through iTunes or whatever. Um, and it's yeah, it was something I really wanted to see because it came out in 2022, so it's relatively new.
Okay.
Yeah, directed by Ethan Eng. Eng? Yeah. Yeah, chronicle yeah, I have no idea if it's a narrative or not. It just says drama comedy.
Okay. Did you get to watch the either of the double features of Culture Shock, the Virgin High, or Under
I did
the?
not get to see either of those.
Okay. Um, these of course look like they're some very much kind of sexploitation-y type of movies. Kind of
That's what
fun,
they do look like to me.
fun romps. In the style of like an Animal House or something like that, maybe. But they're getting they're both getting 2K restorations from the 35 millimeter print. They'll be region free. Um, so yeah, that's that. What about Prague Nights?
Prague Nights I wanted to watch, but I couldn't find it at all. It looked fascinating. It looked really, really good, and I'm telling you, anything put out by Deaf Crocodile kind of
Yeah,
automatically gets my interest. It automatically gets, like, what are they doing? Primarily from what I was reading just from reviews on Letterboxd and places like that, that it's really, really good, but I couldn't find it anywhere. It says, um in the vein of horror anthologies like Mario Bava's Black Sabbath, The Long Unseen Prague Nights is a gorgeous and supernatural vision of ancient and modern Prague, caught between modern 60s fashions and nightmarish medieval catacombs, and filled with Kabbalistic magic, occult rituals, giant golems, clockwork automatons, and satanic visitors. I don't even know what
wow,
this is about, and I just want to see it. I
wow,
know it's a Czechoslovakian film from 1969. I don't see a lot of Czechoslovakian films from the 60s, so I wanna see it, you know?
yeah,
Um, it's limited to 2,000 units, and it looks like there's about 1,000 of them left, so this is maybe a blind buy. It's getting a new interview, actually, new interview, new audio commentary, um, some animated shorts in here as well. It's getting a new essay on the making of Prague Nights. Yeah, I'm in. I'm in, and I wish this was available. Apparently, it's not very highly seen film.
yeah,
Um, and I that's what I love about Deaf Crocodile is they put out a lot of like Eastern European films, and we just don't get to see a lot of Eastern European stuff. In general, I know Criterion puts out quite a bit of it with like Kozlowski and Tarkovsky and those guys, and they put out a whole um eclipse set of the Czech New Wave. I know they did that, which I think is the 1960s. Um, but I don't get to see much of it in like a high quality Blu-ray form. So I really wanted to see that. But I did get to see almost everything else that came out. Um, and I'll make a transition now to I think the best thing that I saw, and that is the candy release of Spacked Out. I think it's called Spacked Out. I have no idea how to pronounce it. This thing sold like it was a fire sale happening here.
Mm,
So the limited edition is already sold out from the Vinegar Syndrome website. Of course, it will be available later this month on like Orbit DVD, as well as Diabolic DVD. Grindhouse may have it as well. But get this film any way you can, even if it's standard edition. It won't take away from the quality of this movie because the quality of this movie is pretty damn good. I was fortunately able to see it, and yeah, it's a film directed by Lawrence Lau, and this is a film produced by Johnny To, which automatically
mm,
got my bells going off. It's written by Lo Chi Long, who wrote Viva Erotica, which I think is another film that they put out, which I've been having my eyeballs on for a long time. And this film is it's a coming of age film, but it's a coming of age film, one obviously in a different culture. It's Hong Kong in like the year 2000, so it's a previous generation, a different culture that we don't get to see, and it's almost like a time capsule piece, but within it is so much contemporary, young, teenage, existential things that are going on. You have this group of four young girls all around the age of 13. They're all dealing with certain life problems, unique life problems. A lot of it has to do with the fact that just the adults in their lives are just not really dependable. They're not really there. They're not really available. They're not really performing any type of parental duties or stability at all, and they kind of have to fend for themselves in very many ways. So they're getting into things like like having like drugs and sex and all this kind of stuff and trying to figure out life at a very tender age of young teenage years where you're trying to figure out all kinds of things and you're so naive to the world and they're kind of thrown into the harshness of the world. And it's the movie is shot in such a guerrilla style where you feel like you're just in this lived in world. It's truly unique. um they compare it a lot here to, like, Hong Kong's answers to, like, Larry Kidd Clark's or something like that. It's a slice of 90s urban grime, replete with all the shiny stylings from the era, and that's a great way to do it. And they're dealing with so many different things in this film. I don't wanna give away any of it. This is actually a Category 3 film, which is interesting to me because when I think of Category 3 films from what I'm just learning now by doing the podcast, is I thought that those films were typically like horror, gore fest films and stuff like
yeah.
that, and this film is not really like that, but it's more horrific in a different way. The harshness of reality and what young people can possibly go through, it can be horrific in and of its own right, and I think it became a Category 3 film because of that harshness of reality. But yeah, this is a fantastic release. I pre-ordered it. I know Steven pre-ordered it. Pretty sure many
I did.
people have pre-ordered it. And yeah, it was only limited to 1,000 units right off the bat, which I thought they would have done a little bit more, but no, it's definitely worth the limited edition you know, availability. So it's newly rescanned, newly restored. It's got an interview with the director and assistant director. It's got an interview with one of the actresses. It's got a booklet in there. Yeah, I'm very very keen in getting this, adding it to my collection. Highly recommended. Highly recommended. Another film that's highly recommended for me was How to Be Loved. How to Be Loved was another film that is an Eastern European film from the 60s. It's from 1963. It's a Polish film. This film, Steven, I'm going to toss out a name here.
Okay.
Reminded me a lot of Satyajit Ray.
Oh,
Um,
really?
it reminded me of of that movie Hero. I don't know why.
Okay.
I kind of do know why, because of the way in which it was setting. It's not quite like that, but it felt like it in a way. I don't know why, per se. But so How to Be Loved, there's this woman who's traveling on a plane from Warsaw, Poland to Paris, France. And she's like reminiscing in her own mind about events that took place during her life, particularly the ones that took place during the German occupation of Poland during World War II. It literally starts with the Germans invading Poland in 1939, and it goes through certain events in that occupation, specifically centered around a relationship she had with this man who was accused of killing, I believe, a Nazi soldier or whatnot. So she spent a good part of the war, or pretty much the whole part of the war, keeping him hidden and hiding out. And then, unfortunately, when the war ends, he pretty much abandons her and just leaves and goes off and lives his own life. So it's her dealing with not only the trauma of the war and the toll it took, but her dealing with those personal things as well as other personal things in her life. And the whole movie bounces around between her remembering certain events in certain orders and whatnot. Really good film. I think of Hero because Hero, if I remember correctly, Satyajit Ray's film takes place on a train
Yes.
entirely, and it's kind of all reminiscing about certain events and
What's
things like
about
that.
it's about an actor reliving his like experience as an act, his through his life and
Yeah,
yeah,
that's the type of framework that I was
yeah,
thinking of, similar framework.
yeah,
And the acting is really, really good, the story is really compelling, um, the themes are all really fantastic. Yeah, it's a great, great film. I was yeah, I heard that it was good just by reading um, the reviews on Letterboxd and stuff like that, but I wasn't expecting it to be that good, and it was. So that's from Yellow Veil Pictures.
yeah.
Really, really good. Um, some other stuff, I think we both got to see Funny Haha.
Yes, yes.
What did you think of it, Steven?
Um,
'Cause I got some things to say.
it's fine. It's definitely a super low budget. The first thing that comes to mind is it's kind of got that Slacker vibe, Richard Linklater's Slacker. It's got that
Yeah,
kind of a lot of varied characters, all kind of intermingling, and it's very naturalistic. The dialogue and everything, very much. It feels like everybody's kind of non-actors.
yeah.
um,
Steven, you are hitting up everything that, for a great segue.
okay,
Uh, so, now that you said all of those things,
yes,
what if I were to tell you that this is the first mumblecore movie, or considered the first mumblecore movie, and mumblecore is exactly all of the things that you just said?
it's because I knew what that was.
So,
I was ahead of you.
yeah, so mumblecore, for all of you who don't know what that is, or maybe you've heard and you don't really know what it is, it's a subgenre of the indie film world. It started in 2002, literally with this movie Funny Haha, and goes all the way to the present. And it certain hallmarks in it are kind of what Steven just said: low budget, emphasis on dialogue over a good plot or a consistent plot, focus on personal relationships. Oftentimes, it doesn't have experienced actors. Oftentimes, it's improv stuff. I think, and yeah, certain names here you're gonna be like, yeah, I know these people. Greta Gerwig, the Duplass brothers, Mark Duplass and Jay Duplass,
Yeah,
Joe Swanberg, who we've talked about before. He's all part of that mumblecore world. Um, uh, People like Adam Wingard, Lena
yeah,
Dunham, uh, influences on mumblecore, Dogma 95, the American Independent stuff from the 90s, reality TV. I mean, you do it yourself kind of stuff, because mumblecore is uh, very much like that. It reminds me a lot of just like, movies you would make with your friends.
yeah, yeah,
It is.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. Not the most
Not
tightly,
polished, not polished at
not
all.
polished, not tightly edited.
Not really tightly written at all, really.
No,
But Funny Haha is about this young woman who is how would you describe her, Steven? Kind of just
Well, it's like
living
she's
her
kinda
life, you
yeah, I was
know?
gonna say she's kinda going through the motions. She's, interested
Young
in
adulthood, you know?
she's trying to she has affections for a particular guy, but he doesn't seem to be into her. So then other guys are throwing themselves at her. Even a friend's boyfriend kind of that makes moves on her, and then like so it's one of them things where it's like things happen, but there's no real through line plot other than
Yeah,
she's going
it's
through stuff. She's going through stuff.
yeah, there's no real plot, it's just kind of somebody living moment to moment, slice of life, really.
Yeah.
Movie's directed by Andrew Bujalski, who apparently did these types of movies. The young character in his name is Marnie, and she's just kind of like Steven said, like living like moment to moment. She's like 22, 23 years old, like going through young adulthood crises, like you were just saying,
I mean,
relationships,
if there was
career stuff.
yeah, if there was one actor in the movie that I think did okay, it would be her. She was like okay, like she was the most. She
The
had the most
yeah,
charm and the most.
the I
You
would
know,
say the problem with mumblecore stuff is not only the fact that people are mumbling their lines literally sometimes, just like the conversations don't move, like people are just like talking
yeah,
in circles and
the
like
gap.
the
It's if it.
conversations go on forever,
I
you
mean,
know?
the naturalistic part of it is that you get people don't talk a nice rhythm that a scripted movie might. So you
Right.
get like pauses and you
It's
get
more
weird
awkward,
awkward silences.
cringeworthy,
Yeah,
cringeworthy conversations, things don't move, and it's like it's not very theatrical.
yeah,
It's like kind of like watching 2 strangers on the street talk to each other,
yeah.
you know what I
Okay.
mean? Or 2 random friends talk to each other, and it's like, "Oh boy,"
Yeah,
let's move on to something else.
it's not tight at all.
Yeah,
It's
so
just it's as
it's not
loose
for
as it
everyone.
gets. Yeah.
I know a lot of people who hate mumblecore, that's why I'm bringing it
I
up
don't
so
hate
much.
it, but it's definitely not it's not like a favorite thing of mine.
Some are better some work is better than others.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, this was obviously an early experimental try at it. Maybe not even, like, trying, just going for something that was different in the independent movie world at the time, you know?
Yeah.
And I give them, A for effort trying to try it out, but it is gonna be a little grating for some. But that's funny, haha. Um, so Effects I got to see. Effects, like Steven said, is a 4K re-release from AGFA. This is an interesting movie that almost bored me to tears until the 3rd act. How do I say this? Um,
It didn't have much of an effect on you, I
so,
guess.
uh, yeah, I love how they describe this. Cobbled together with loose change by George Romero's friends. Effects is a mesmerizing DIY frightmare that no one talks about, but everyone should. So I love how they describe it. A group of coked up filmmakers, including Tom Savini. So they all get together. So this movie is about a making of a movie that turns into the making of a snuff movie, and but the people involved in it don't realize that they're making a snuff movie. And what is interesting is that premise sounds fascinating. The problem is a good like 45, 50 minutes of this movie is not that. It's kind of just like other stuff going on when it's involving these characters and they're making of a movie. Like at one point, like they're just going out and doing like having like eating picnic out in the woods or something. It's like it's irrelevant stuff going on. It's not until the 3rd act, once you get this reveal of the plot I just mentioned, that things like kick into gear and you're like, holy crap. I mean, at one point, some of the characters are watching a snuff film, so you see them react to it and all this kind of stuff. And you can see the sinister things kind of brewing and whatnot, but it's so low budget that it's just like, I kind of wish more was going on in it. Um, but yeah, I know a lot of people really like the movie. I just wasn't digging it too much. Yeah, it's directed by Dusty Nelson, came out in 1979, 1980, around there. The movie's 84 minutes long, so it's not like it's a long film. It was shot in 16 millimeters, so they're going from 16 millimeter camera negative to 4K. Curious how that
Hmm.
grain is going to look. Probably very pronounced. Um, but it does have a couple of special features here and whatnot. Um, yeah, it's a fine indie film of the time. I mean, I maybe people are gonna be yelling at me for not liking it too much, but I get it. I know you want to see a movie that had absolutely no budget whatsoever and did the most I was impressed by. First of all, the movie's not great, but this
Okay.
movie cost $6,000. It's called At Dawn They Sleep, and I've never seen someone stretch $6,000 this far before.
Wow.
So At Dawn They Sleep is a super, super indie shot on video film put out by Saturn's Core. Um, Man, this movie's bonkers like crazy town. So first of all, the acting in the movie, terrible, dialogue, terrible. The special effects, though, for $6,000, I'm like, this is wild, wild gore effects. And the premise of this movie shoots for the moon. Um, so so this movie is about two best friends, Steven and Ian, and they're like these drug dealer guys who are just these no good guys, right? So they end up kind of hooking up with these two gorgeous women, and once again, I guess the premises don't things may be too good to be true. They turn out to these women are angels, but they also turn you into like vampire creatures. I don't know how that works. Just go with me here. But they
Interesting.
turn these into bloodthirsty angelic vampires. That's how they're described. Once the vampiric transformation takes hold, Steven and Ian use their newfound bloodlust and immortality to enact a gore-soaked revenge on their backstabbing adversaries. But then Steven basically backstabs Ian and makes a pact with a demon. And Steven, you got to see what this demon looks like because the makeup effects on it are better than some movies I've seen. Um, Unbelievable work here. And he makes a pact with the demon to exterminate the angels. And then these two friends basically fight this battle to the death at the end. This movie's bonkers beyond bonkers. Insane, low budget, shot on video, like I said, but I was expecting it to be just terrible, but I was more impressed by the lengths in which the film went. With that premise, with that budget, they kind of pulled it off.
Yeah.
A
Yeah.
miracle. Like a
All right.
miracle. And this movie came out in 1999, so I don't. I'd be fascinated what the making of this movie was like. And luckily, we're getting and looks like a commentary with the writer, archival commentary with the writer and director. So new and old commentary with writer director, the making of this movie from 2023. That's gonna be fascinating as heck. But yeah, it's called At Dawn They Sleep.
All
And I
right.
think you can find this. Oh man, no, I found it online somewhere. Um, but yeah, it's At Dawn They Sleep.
All right.
What a movie. Um, Where do you want to go to now, Steven? 'Cause I got some other things to talk about. I can say that Umbrella's release of Shame is a re-release of a movie that they've already put out that we've talked about now
Yeah.
twice, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've got I'm looking at it right now. I've got no, it's around here somewhere. But I've got what
Sunburned
was it? The
Entertainment.
Sunburn.
Yeah.
I'm looking, yeah, the Sunburnt Screens version from Umbrella of that, and this looks like a re-release of that release. Um, Coincidentally, we also didn't talk about their new releases, so I guess
Well,
we can maybe
I
slide
was
that
gonna
in.
bring that up when we were done with this. So yeah.
Oh, okay. I didn't know if you want to slide it in now since we're talking about
We can.
Umbrella,
We
but
can. The
uh,
only thing we didn't talk about was Queen of Hollywood Boulevard.
yeah, I
That
did
was it.
see Queen of Hollywood Boulevard. That's streaming on Tubi right now. Um,
And yeah,
Interesting film.
interesting.
So quick premise of that: there's this elderly woman who's just about to turn 60, and she runs a strip club, an adult gentlemen's club in Sunset Boulevard in Hollywood, and she owes a debt to some organized crime people that she's got to fulfill. The movie is shot way more artistically than I was anticipating, and the movie's kind of way more artistic and kind of like slow movie, contemplative with really like dramatic score around it as well. The acting not so great in it, but the premise is wacky and wild. And yeah, that's that movie. I do also want to mention that the Altered Innocence release. This is their volume 2 of the short film collection that they have. Actually, I think the second or third release that Altered Innocence ever did when they're on the partner label side here was volume 1,
Yeah.
which I think is still available in standard form,
Yeah.
without the slipcover. But but this new release is, from what I gather, really fantastic. Steve and I were fortunate enough to see some of these films
Well, you
beforehand. Well,
were.
I was.
I didn't get time, unfortunately, but
Yeah, it's separated into two categories. There's an altered program and an innocence program. And the whole runtime of this is about 4 hours long. So the altered program, 2 hours, innocence program, 2 hours. And the difference between the two, as you may be asking, so the altered program is a wild blast of strange and transgressive visions with films about virtual love dolls on a revenge tear, twinks eager to be annihilated, and a lesbian director obsessed with big boobs. Yes,
cool.
that's all of that's in there. The Innocence program is a more tender and subtle program of loveliness with tales about brotherly love, modern transgender life, intergenerational relationships, and boys testing the limits of traditional masculinity. And I got to see the altered program films, and there's about was that 6 films? 6 films into 2 hours, and they're all really, really good. Some of them are better than the others. Yandere, the second one, which is called Yandere, phenomenal. Just I thought it was really, really good. Chaperone is the last one in here. Zachary Quinto is in it. Um,
Cool.
it's a very short film. Yeah, the first film, Young Diego, is about 7 minutes long, very short. No more. The longest film in here is a half an hour long. Two of them, I think, are about a half an hour in length. Um, Trade Center, I think, is the shortest. And an interesting film. Trade Center is about 8 to 9 minutes long. It's about. It's only done in voiceover, and it's just like photographs and videos of the World Trade Center area, which apparently is a hotbed for homosexual activity during the 80s and 90s. And it's just men kind of reminiscing about how much of a hub that was at the time. Businessmen just having lots of sex at the World Trade Center.
Okay.
Apparently during that time. That is that. It very much contrasts with kind of the post 9/11 idea of the romanticizing about the World Trade Center and stuff like that, you know what I mean? It just kind of brings it down to, like, the reality of it, you know?
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
reality of it. So that was interesting, but these are yeah, it's great to see collections of short films because, um, we don't get to see a lot of these,
No,
really,
it's not an
you
area
know?
that gets the physical media treatment.
Yeah,
Definitely.
short films don't get, they don't get the marketing, they don't get the release that feature films get. They
I mean,
certainly don't really get the Blu-ray releases
just
that.
think about everything that gets nominated at the Academy Awards. You typically see Blu-rays of them movies later.
Yeah, you don't even know where to see them
Yeah.
when they're nominated because you don't even know where to go to see them. Other than the Pixar ones that are played before the Pixar movies,
Yeah.
a lot of those movies you have to end up finding online or they play at film festivals, and that's a limited audience
Yeah.
and whatnot. So yeah, so this is a really cool and Altered Innocence. Um, they do a lot of great films when it comes to LGBTQ plus community and coming of age films, and they oftentimes combine the two. And a lot of the themes in these films cover those areas. Um, yeah, I think this is a phenomenal release. I really want to get my hands on the first one,
Yeah.
um, and then get my hands on this one as well. I don't have a lot of Altered Innocence releases in my
I
collection.
think I have quite a few. Um,
I know Wild Reeds is really, really
yeah,
good that
I
I
have
wanted to
that.
get.
I have that.
Wounded Man is another one that we really
I
liked.
got that.
A couple of all these other ones I wanted to see when they were announced. I didn't get my chance to. Like Brothers Keeper, I wanted to
I have
see.
that.
I remember seeing. Saw Jack Be Nimble.
That
I
was
know
that
you
one
have
that got fucking bought
that
up
got
quick.
scooped up right away. Did you? I know you have Pals, right?
Yeah,
And Arabeto.
Pals is amazing. Yeah,
Yeah, and Arabeto.
yeah,
I almost bought Pals at the halfway to Black Friday sale,
yeah.
and
Eloy de la Iglesias.
yeah,
It's
there's only
amazing.
59 copies of that left with a limited edition.
Yeah, you should grab that. It's got a
So
nipple.
I
It's
don't know
got a
if that's gonna
nipple. It's
last.
got a nipple in that cover, man. You get it for it. Go for it, man.
Well, Sister Hyde, I think, did the cover
She
art for
did.
that.
She did.
Yeah, I don't own any of that director's work. So
Dude, what are you doing?
nope, I think I have Rebels of the Neon God, right? Didn't he do that?
I don't think so. That's somebody else.
No, that's somebody else.
Yeah. You need to get Eloy de Iglesias. You need to get either the Kinky films from Severin is the set of 3 films, Kinky films. You also have Cannibal Man from Severin.
Oh yes, that's what he did. Yeah.
There's also Murder in a Blue World from Cauldron Films. Put that out. That's another one. Awesome. He's an awesome director. Love his
Yeah, I
stuff.
gotta get more of his stuff. I have to watch more of his stuff. But you were right, Steven. Yeah.
I think there was something else, but I'm forgetting it. But that's what I can remember off the top of my head. So yeah, that's the partner label stuff. A lot of good stuff there, and
Yeah. Now to wrap it up, Umbrella.
yeah, we meant to get to Umbrella maybe before that, but yeah, there's just a couple releases from
It's only
Umbrella.
2. Yeah.
Yeah, and so
I
we
get.
got Sky Pirates from 1986, and we have a film called The Last Wave, directed by the great Peter Weir from
Yes.
1977, which is the one I watched. This is getting
Nice.
its
Nice.
world premiere 4K restoration, and it's gonna be a 4K. So very interesting film. Richard Chamberlain's in it, and it's he's assigned this case to a group of indigenous Australian men. He is unprepared for the nightmares and the dreamscapes ahead. Accused of murdering one of their own, the men stand trial amidst suspicious circumstances. As Burton becomes plagued by unsettling visions, he is drawn to the mysterious Chris Lee, which is portrayed by David Galloply, who I think recently passed on us.
Yeah, he was the young indigenous individual in
Walkabout.
Walkabout. Yes.
Yeah. For answers to his torment. So it's an interesting film about cultural differences where there's, something, the murder that happens might have been for spiritual or cultural reasons versus
Hmm.
the democratic judicial system that is in Australia that very similar to ours here, where there's roles, and you can't but their roles are different than our roles, so who's right and whose roles should we be
Mm.
following? Well, it's kind of got that conundrum, but there's also like this fantastical spiritual element to the movie that kind of plays into it as well. So it looks like Andrew already has the Sunburnt Entertainment
Yeah, I do. I
version.
have the so when they were doing their Sunbird Screens line over at Umbrella, their first release, number 1, is actually The Last Wave, the Peter Weir, by Peter Weir. So I scooped that up, I don't know, like a year or 2 ago, while the line was still active. And yeah, it already had a 4K restoration and remaster at the time, so I'm pretty sure they're taking those elements and making it um into this 4K release. I may probably porting over the same special features as well, which just seem to be interviews with lead actor Richard Chamberlain, producer Jim McElroy, director photographer Russell Boyd.
Does say there's
The
a new commentary.
Okay, so there's a new commentary on here because
Yeah.
there's no commentary featured on the back here. Um, so that's cool. I'm wondering if they're going to be doing that with any of these other films that they've already released in the past.
Yeah,
That would
maybe
be interesting. Um, yeah, and it's coming with obviously a big collector's edition that's exclusive to their site store, as well as being limited, and then of course getting a regular just release of the movie itself. Um, yeah, it's
Yeah,
coming out in August 23rd.
it's a pretty cool movie. I kind of liked it.
But now switching over to Sky Pirates.
Yeah, the one that everybody's here for.
Okay, so Sky Pirates is the Australian version of Indiana Jones.
It looks like
Literally,
it.
there were shots that they took from Indiana Jones and used it in this movie. Not shots, but like the way they would shoot adventure scenes, the way they would use the score and stuff like that, all taken from Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
Like unashamedly. Unashamedly. Um yeah, it's notoriously not a good movie. I don't even think the director likes the movie, and he made it.
Well,
So
yeah,
this
that
game
happens.
Yeah, it came out in 1986, so obviously it was after both Raiders and Temple of Doom, before Last Crusade, obviously before Crystal Skull, and of course the new one. Um, yeah, it's so here we go. Air Force Lieutenant Harris starts for flight to Boa Boa on board Reverend Mitchell with a box containing a part of a top secret extraterrestrial key. They get lost in a supernatural storm and find themselves after an emergency landing in a kind of Bermuda Triangle 5,000 miles off their course. Home again, no one believes Harris's story, and his crew suspiciously denies it as well. Harris is thrown into jail but manages to escape. Together with Mitchell's daughter, he seeks the lost part of the key and its secret, as well as, of course, proving, the events from earlier on in the film. So it's about, he's even dressed as like Indiana Jones. The actor even tries to like talk like Harrison Ford as Indiana Jones in it. There's a woman who is a love interest, who is the daughter of a former colleague of his, a la Raiders of the Lost Ark. I mean, they're looking for an ancient
Hey,
artifact.
he,
I
he, he's
mean, come
got a
on.
he's got a different style hat. He's got like a captain's hat.
Oh yeah, it's completely different.
It's different.
Completely different.
Yeah.
It's yeah, it's not great. It's fun, probably more of a cultish type thing. Um, yeah, it's not a good movie. It gets panned for a reason. Obviously, the comparisons to Indiana Jones, but it's not terrible on its own. Um, but yeah, it's just watch Indiana Jones. Really, I mean,
Yeah.
just save your time. I was just yeah. There was a name for the movie. I couldn't quite know what the quote is. It's like Indiana Jones and the Temple of Crap or something. I think that's what someone
Ah,
called it. I
huh.
don't know. Uh, it's
But
not a great movie.
I'll say this though, they
There's
put
yeah, go on.
tons of
Go
new
on.
features, and of
Yeah,
course, one of them being a segment from Not Quite Hollywood, extended
nice.
Not Quite Hollywood interview with producer John D. Lamond and cinematographer Gary Wapshot. That's a great last name. But yeah, tons of new features, new commentary. Um, New test footage with commentary with the visual effects artist, VFX breakdown featurette, film buffs, forecast tribute to John D. Lamond, uh, new Indiana Clones trailer reel, another trailer reel with Colin Eggleston. Yeah, tons of stuff here. So they really go all out for this.
Yeah, it's definitely a more of a cult hit movie
Yeah,
that I
yeah.
had just heard about when when it was announced. It's the first time it's ever getting a Blu-ray release anywhere
Yeah.
in the
So
world.
that's a good thing. It's always a good thing. Something gets its Blu-ray premiere. So even if you're not really into it, still a good thing. There's always somebody that likes something. Um, so that's it. That is it for this week's slate of releases that we're going to talk about. Um, how do you feel, Andrew? I'm tired.
Yeah, there's a lot more than I thought about. Um, Going into this episode, I didn't realize it was going to be this long. I think the Vinegar Syndrome. There's just a lot to say there.
There's always a lot to say with them, man. It's
There's
always
just a lot of great,
lot of
stuff.
interesting stuff's always popping out from there that you
Yeah, the
don't even
partner label
expect.
stuff,
It's
damn
amazing.
good stuff.
Yeah. All right, Andrew. Well, let's before I did do the countdown, please go subscribe to the YouTube channel and check out our recent unwatched pile with Ryan Vero over at Disconnected. That was one of our most recent things, and of course, once again, thank you to Raquel Stecher for chatting with us. Andrew, where can you be found?
You can find me on Twitter at Kevzilla06, as well as our YouTube channel that Steven just mentioned, Chasing Labels, where we've got interviews from everyone we've interviewed here on the podcast. Is
Well,
also
not everything's
not
got a
everyone,
video.
everyone from this calendar year.
Yeah, yeah.
Has our video interview portion is posted up on there. So check that out.
And you can find me on Facebook at Stephen Billings or at my letterbox. You can follow me, see what I'm watching. You can find me also at our other Chasing Labels social media pages, whether it be our Twitter, our Instagram. You can find the audio for the podcast on Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, and other places. Thanks again for listening, and hey, keep on watching them movies.
I know I will.